Bigsby runs the opposite way and finds a crease. Inside the 30, with a cutback, breaks a tackle. Inside the 10, goal line, touchdown! 50-yard scamper for Tank Bigsby.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
It's time to look on the opposite side of the field. Tank Dell holds that in.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Protects Cohen. Wide open. Michael Mayer. House call. The Irish dominating in this opening quarter.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Hooker to throw on the slant. He's got Hyatt, and Hyatt's got space. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
And he'll be satisfied with this play. A beautiful twisting interception in the air by Brian Branch.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go this Tuesday afternoon, Valentine's Day. So hope you've had a chance to enjoy it with whoever you wanted to. Happy Valentine's Day. There is the story in East Lansing, Michigan, which we'll get into, the tragedy on the campus at Michigan State University. There's some college football news. Also, our guests today, including Mack Rhoades from Baylor. Colin Deaver covers the west part of Texas, of El Paso, and a little bit more on the New Mexico State men's basketball story. John McLean, Hall of Fame columnist. We'll have Craig's Off the Radar, Paul's Top 5. All of that, a lot of you already rolling today on the chat room. Let's start with some college football notes. Georgia's Todd Monken, one of the elite play callers in the country. He is headed to the National Football League. A lot of people would have loved to have had him. Todd Monken is going to be the offensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens.
I think it's a great hire for the Ravens. I think it's going to bring them kind of a new look at things. And, he's, 90% going to be the offensive coordinator for Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's a free agent, and, they'll probably have to franchise tag him. But I don't see many scenarios in which, outside of him just getting really mad at them, that he goes anywhere. And the Ravens usually take care of things like that. But, yeah, I think it's a great deal for them. And, bringing back Mike Bobo, who was there and set some records while he was the offensive coordinator. And, he was the quarterback there, right? Mike Bobo, way back in the day at Georgia. I think that's a nice move for them. Maybe a lateral move at Georgia is just fine. You're the national champion. So they don't really have to improve on much. I think Mike Bobo can do a great job there. I think Todd Monken's going to do a great job for the Ravens and bringing some new perspective and some excitement there.
Yeah, good for him. Rewards for having the type of season that Georgia had, or the type of run that Georgia's had, and the type of job that he's done. He's been in the game for a really long time now, but still long way to go in his career. So go up and be an OC with a tremendously well-respected organization, successful organization like the Baltimore Ravens, I think is a good jump for him. Obviously no stranger to the NFL, so and not a shock like the big he's jumping from college. He's got tons of pro background, so this was probably expected in some regards. But yeah, very interesting hire for Baltimore. I think from our perspective, it's far more interesting. How does that affect Georgia moving forward? And you look at just how good their team's been the last couple years, and now they are going to be, replacing some guys again. They've recruited really well, but you start replacing coaches, and that's just part of the deal. So, Kirby Smart's had to do some of that already. I'm sure he'll be fine and, pushing, parts to where they need to go and finding the right parts for the slots that they don't have fits for just yet. But, this is a part of the deal when you have success. Folks, branch off, and Todd Monken obviously had, as I mentioned, a thorough history before Georgia. So good for him and good for the Ravens, and we'll see what he does. But thought he did a tremendous job with the Bulldogs.
Played at Georgia, as you mentioned, in the early to mid to early late 90s, 93 to 97. He's a young guy. 8 years old. I guess that's not young, but he played at Georgia. He's been at Georgia.
Todd Monken?
No, Mike Bobo. He's been at Georgia as a quarterbacks coach for 6 years. He was then the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach from 07 to 14 with the Colorado State, South Carolina, Auburn quarterback offensive coordinator, and then also at Georgia offensive analyst last year, kind of in a bounce-back year, and now he's the offensive coordinator at Georgia. So Monken goes to the NFL to Baltimore. They need a little kick in the pants. And then also Bobo, an opportunity, as you mentioned. It's a lateral move based on – no, it's not. He got promoted. He's the offensive coordinator instead of the offensive analyst, who probably had a pretty big fingerprint too.
I'm not saying that and I'm not trying to let Greg Roman off the hook because, the Ravens offense wasn't good when they were all healthy. I mean, outside of Lamar Jackson, they probably needed some new ideas. But the Ravens' real key for Todd Monken is that he needs healthy players. I mean, Lamar Jackson was out for half the year. 3 of their 5 wide receivers were out for half the year. Every running back that they've had for the last 3 years seems to have torn their ACL at some time. And they've had to, a couple years ago, they had to absolutely scrape the bottom of the, retread running back barrel and get guys in there. So if they can get one, the Ravens are always going to get good talent because they're just an organization built on that. And 2, if they can keep said talent healthy, then that'll be great. And I also expect them to maybe make a trade for a DeAndre Hopkins.
They need to make Lamar Jackson happy.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want him to be sulking around. He's going to get a contract. They got to make the decision on that. It seems like that decision would be easy. Again, a huge commitment with Lamar Jackson coming up around the corner.
If you're Mark Andrews, I'm sure you're excited. As far as the tight end position goes, if you're a Baltimore tight end, then you got to be happy about what you can probably expect. But I've seen a lot of Ravens fans that are just kind of mixed feelings. Not everybody who follows football loves college and the NFL the same. Some NFL fans don't care about college football at all unless it's draft time, and vice versa. You don't care as a college football fan until you see some of the guys you rooted for go pro. But yeah, I've seen a lot of not sure what to expect here. And everybody's got their different flavors as far as they want. But yeah, the tight end position will be great. They need to make Lamar happy, and they do need to probably grab some weapons to surround him with. It's not as though Monken was perfect at Georgia. There were some flaws. There were some things that people thought could have been better. But he's got a great resume, and obviously is coming off a very successful run with the top premier program in the entire country. So be interesting to see how he transitions this time around.
A Big 12 note because of a coaching staff change. University of Miami, every time someone leaves, you go, oh, that's pretty good, and then you realize there could be somebody in your conference that is someone adding or losing. Houston lost Shannon Dawson. Miami takes over. He's now the offensive coordinator at the Hurricanes, so there's a story there that affects a Big 12 staff. And Utah, offensive coordinator Andy Ludwig staying at Utah. His buyout was a little bit high. Notre Dame decided that they broke down discussions, and so Andy Ludwig stays with the University of Utah Utes.
Yeah, great news for the Utes. Curious to see where Notre Dame goes after that. This is, I think, the second guy they kind of kicked the tires on, and it didn't get there for one reason or another. I do like the Miami hire in that. Look, you can say a lot of things about the way Houston has played the last couple of years. One thing you can't say is they didn't score points, and they've certainly done that. I mean, that SMU game alone probably got him, could have gotten him 10 interviews for play calling. So, yeah, I think that's a good move for them. Miami, interestingly enough, though, they kicked the tires on Major Applewhite, about 4 or 5 of the guys, and this is where they settled. I'm curious to see what happens there, but they've had 2 good recruiting classes in a row. They have not really hit in the transfer portal like they need to be immediately improved. We'll see what happens in year 2 under Mario Cristobal. He's not really going anywhere, so he's got some leeway to do some things. But year 1, let go of some coordinators. Others walked out the door, and then you had, Charlie Strong left as well on the defensive staff because he didn't get promoted. And so here you have they've gone and signed 2 coordinators from smaller type schools, but we'll see what happens at Miami.
Yeah, Tyler Van Dyke needs to be better than he was last year. So get ready for the air raid. I mean, it's a mummy guy, and that means, you'd expect points and expect, a lot of throwing the ball around and just exciting offense. But that's kind of, par for the course. If you don't really have an exciting offense, it's notable, nowadays. But, Miami should be fun, up-tempo, throwing it around. And, I think Houston just kind of got lost in the shuffle, but ended up finishing pretty strong last year, despite the fact that, early on in the year you wondered if they were going to even have a team that could stay together cohesively because they're fighting on the sidelines in the first, 5 weeks of the season it was. You already had a couple tiffs, including one notable one caught on camera with, player shoving his teammate coming to the sidelines, and it just got off to a weird kind of bad start for them, but they rebounded quite nicely. I'm very intrigued by them going into this first year in the Big 12, especially after having Clayton Tune, at quarterback for as long as they did. It seemed like he was there for forever. So, yeah, just more change for the Cougars. I mean, if you're Houston, though, you really that stressed over losing an offensive coordinator? No, because you've got, the guy there in your head coaching position that's going to have a lot to say about your offense and a lot to do with your offense. So, remains to be seen. But on paper, I like it for Miami. And, like Notre Dame, it's been a long slog of a search, it seems like, of, name gets brought up, next day it's like no longer a candidate. Paul's saying that it took a little while for them to find a guy. And, for Notre Dame on that side of things, with Ludwig staying put, who knows how long it's going to take them, because it seems like we've already gone through like 5 candidates that you thought would have possibly taken the job at this point. So, yeah, one big answer in South Beach, and now we wait in South Bend to see exactly who's going to be, running the show there. Tommy Rees, when he left, didn't expect it to probably take them, not that it's been like a month or anything, but, it's just taken them probably a little bit longer given the number of names that have popped up that they've seemingly had to move from one to the next. And I wonder how many more they might have to rifle through.
By the way, Dr. Lawrence Shavanik, the president of Texas Tech, will be a guest tomorrow on this show at 4:15. He, of course, is a part of the hierarchy of the Big 12, not just because he's the Tech president, but because he's a part of the decision-making. And then also Thursday, Gene Taylor, the AD at Kansas State, will join us as we get some feedback from other administrators on the week after the Texas-Oklahoma, the early exit, the agreement in the Big 12, and moving forward. We're going to get to basketball here in a second. And there's now a tie at the top of the Big 12 because of last night, and could be a 3-way tie at the end of tonight. Let's see. From S. Michael DeHart, good almost heaven afternoon, the Sikkim 365 family. He's a big West Virginia guy. He's the one that said, if I ever get up to West Virginia, he wants to invite me to play the amazing golf courses that they have. Dan Tipton with the UCF logo next to him. Hello from the Mouse House. Hello, Dan. Appreciate you as well. Also, go Beavers. Clint Moses every day. He does that. We appreciate that. Laura Weiss. Hey, y'all. With the Cactus. Thank you very much. John Hammond, afternoon. The room full already. TJ Scott and King William 3D. My favorite part of the day, getting the notification. 365 Sports is live. Good afternoon, everyone. 100%. Also, many more. We'll get to a lot of you, but I want to let you know we are watching, reading, and we appreciate your support.
I think it's funny that every day I have to allow Clint Moses's just 3 emoji beavers on there, that YouTube has got that in their filter.
Well, this time it's 2 beavers, a black, and then also gold heart for Oregon State's colors.
So
he might have slipped through on that one, and that's fine. We've cleared that enough to where at Paxton, Smoak, Tiger Woods is back. He's playing at the Genesis at Riviera this week on the PGA Tour. I have no expectations for what he'll do, but just watching him play as many times as possible, because, of course, we know his timeline doesn't appear to be very lengthy, and last year eventually had to shut it down yet again. Matt in D.C. listening from 35,000 feet, flying back from a great basketball weekend. Matt, thank you very much for what you do. So, Texas was in Lubbock last night. Tech played really well. Harmon played really well. The former Oklahoma Sooner had a big game, beat Texas. It wasn't easy, but beat Texas last night. Huge win for them as Tech's they got some good quad 1 wins, but they obviously have to dig themselves out of a terrific hole after starting at, 0-10 or whatever it was.
I think they've got to pretty much I mean, they can't. It's unreasonable to think that they're going to win out, but they got to get close.
Well, they're going to have to do some damage
Yeah,
the rest of the way. 5 games left, and, of course, maybe in the Big 12 tournament. And even then, it may not be enough. So Baylor started, remember, with 0-3, 2 very gut-wrenching last possession losses to TCU and then also to Kansas State. They were 0-3. They're now 9-4. They've won 9 of their last 10 conference games. Add the win against Arkansas in that mix as well. But here comes a stretch at Kansas State, Texas at home, at Oklahoma State, and then home against Iowa State. All of those teams are competing along with Baylor to try to win the Big 12 regular season championship.
Yeah, it's it is surprising that they did start 0-3, and then they've been on this tear, and they've gotten back into now what is a tie for first place. I mean, that's hard to do. But if you look at the way that this league has gone, really everybody's going to have a little funk. Theirs was just right at the beginning, which is really rare. If you're going to pick a time in the Big 12 to have your funk, I would pick right out of the gate, wouldn't you? As opposed to in the middle or at the end.
The amount of energy it takes to get back to where you are in position like they are now with still 5 games left, to me, is remarkable. But the energy can sometimes wear you down. We've seen them do that before when they were not a tournament, like an Elite 8 team, but we've seen them make the run before. But, yeah, if you're going to lose early so you don't have that, kind of that, what's going on? Iowa State's dealt with it. Kansas State's dealt with it. Texas has lost 2 out of 3. They, of course, lost to Kansas and then also last night in Lubbock. Everybody goes through it in this conference, but I would think if you're going to start 0-3, you surely have zero room for error. And Baylor with 5 extremely difficult games, but which ones aren't?
But you can, on any given night, get quality minutes out of 9 players. And when Jonathan Chachua is coming off the bench and playing 24 minutes, that's excellent. And then you've got, Caleb Lohner can get good minutes for you. Josh Ojimuna can get good minutes for you. Dale Bonner
he's hardly ever playing now.
Yeah, but I mean, he can still, he can get good minutes if you need them. Yeah. And then you can, and of course, Langston Love can get good minutes for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, a great win last night. I mean, it doesn't really matter what Texas Tech does if Baylor doesn't handle their business against West Virginia. Mm-hmm. So, they had to get that win to be in first place, regardless of what everybody else did, and they got it, and it's awfully impressive. I mean, they're sizzling right now. LJ Cryer is on a tear. He and Adam Flagler both have been pretty incredible the last week in particular. I mean, just kind of zeroing in on the tail end of this stretch. I mean, they've both taken turns and being super hot, and obviously that remained the case last night with Cryer doing what he did. But I mean, just top to bottom, it's a really deep roster that's obviously a lot deeper now with Everyday John back in the mix. That's helped tremendously, and it's been fun to watch. I mean, just given, like you said, where they started to where they are now, even if you thought that the start was a bit of an anomaly, I don't think you could have predicted even the most positive that they'd go and make the run that they have since that 0-3 start. I mean, you could have said, like, oh, yeah, sure, they'll go 7-3 the rest of the way or something, but you aren't sitting there going, they're going 9-1 after going 0-3. I mean, come on. Like, even the most positive of pumpers aren't going to go that way for any team really in the Big 12. Great job by Texas Tech. I mean, they've really kind of hit a nice little piece of, positive pavement here as of late, given, kind of how the feeling was around Mark Adams and just the program in general. Even just a couple of weeks ago, a lot of, bad taste in your mouth as far as expectations versus what reality had turned out to be. But reality here as of late's been, a lot better. So, maybe they're turning a little bit of a corner, but as you said, it's going to be really tough for them to make the tournament. So if you can't make the tournament, or, you still have an opportunity. Let's see what they do. Although you have very little room for error. But as I always kind of say, is if you're not going to be a part of the party, then crash that sucker, or crash that sucker on the behalf of others. And so that's what they did in some ways last night. Now the problem, or they're not the problem, but the deal is Baylor could be in first place for all of a few days. I mean, they got the rest of this schedule coming up, including these next 2. I mean, it's not easy. None of the 5 are easy. So, yeah, you're in first place after last night. You'll be in first place for, a couple more days maybe. And then after that, who knows? I mean, you could very easily go 1-4. You could go 2-3. You could go 5-0. I mean, that's the Big 12, and that's what this schedule is the rest of this way, these final 5 games. So it'll be a fascinating race to the finish line.
Paula Fleck McReynolds, happy Tuesday, everybody. 365 people. Paula, good afternoon to you. TJF, the Pac-12 is dead. You don't put out that ridiculous press statement otherwise. And then some of that have come on here, Ron McClure, Big 12 fans, are hostile to the Pac-12, kind of silly. Ron, I just sent you a response to that. We have watched this develop. We were there in the middle of all hell breaking loose in the Big 12 back in the summer in July of 2021 when it was, holy crap, what's going to happen to everybody but Texas and Oklahoma? And it did look dicey, and it was fragile. The Big 12 survived, and anytime someone brought up, well, maybe there's the Pac-12 or whatever, it was completely a look-down, condescending view of anything Big 12, and that kind of still remains that way in some ways. We've tried, and I think we have, with a bunch of different voices, even some in the media that we've kind of watched a little bit along the way. We've tried to bring a little balance to it, but you're going to have fans looking, picking, whatever. We've made it clear. We did not want to see the Big 12 fail because we cover them. At the same time, we don't want to see the Pac-12 fail, and maybe some do. We wish the Pac-12 the best of luck. We really don't know. There's a lot of speculation about who is up for who's connected to whom. You hear about Arizona. You hear about Colorado. Now there's a really good chance that Arizona and Arizona State, no matter who may tell you differently, that maybe they're joined at the hip, but that doesn't mean anything. But there's a lot of moving parts right now about the Pac-12 and about their future, and nobody really knows what's going on, no matter what or anyone who thinks they are an expert.
Well, top 5 today is about why I don't think it's going to happen, and I'll give you a little preview of one of them, is that I don't think that there's enough places for everybody to go right now. Not that they wouldn't be absorbed if it just collapsed and everybody got angry. But, if the Big Ten, because if you think about the schools that are going to break this up are not Arizona and Arizona State. They're not, I don't think. It's probably more like Washington and Stanford that could break it up. Stanford would be the one that'd be like, we're sick of this, we're leaving. Well, the Big Ten is not calling for anybody right now. Kevin Warren is gone. And the university presidents probably don't have the appetite for it at this time. Now, 5 years from now, after a couple playoff cycles and everything kind of, works itself in a different way in college football, will we see this again? Probably. TV deals are going to be a lot shorter now. So those things can pop up and move around a lot faster, especially as we've seen people kind of come and go here in the last couple of years. Those things can move faster than maybe we thought in the past. But I just don't think that at this time right now, in spite of the Pac-12's terrible attempts at public relations, that there is the appetite for them to break up. And I don't think that the Big 12 has enough juice to really knock them down, and I don't think that the Big 10 has enough fervor for them to go and get the schools that they would want over there right now, or that would fit the Big 10. I just don't think that that's in the cards at this moment.
Yeah, I think if the Pac stays together, it's not because they're in some great position of power, no. And I'm seeing that kind of spun that way of like, oh, the Pac's gonna, look, I'm not anti-Pac-12, to the person who commented that you just referred to. There is a lot of anti-Pac sentiment from certain Big 12 folks. Get some juice online, and that's part of the reason why is just the trash or the mudslinging. But all that stems from, the Oklahoma-Texas situation and the number of people primarily out on the West Coast or fans of West Coast schools that, were happy to go grab a shovel and help dig and then, put the dirt on the Big 12's casket. And, they were like the Undertaker. They popped back up to everybody's surprise, and they're still around and they're stronger than ever, quite honestly, as far as moving forward. Like, there's not this grave concern and maybe not as strong financially, but there's no longer going to be this looming threat of you being held hostage by the two top brands, which was always the case. It's like, is Texas happy? Is Oklahoma happy? Like, how are they? Are they okay? Are they going to be looking anywhere? Like, there's no more of that. Now, you can't let your guard down. You can't just, like, assume that everybody's going to stay in place, but I do think they're more cohesive than ever, and the threat of, teams leaving in the middle of the night and the whole conference disintegrating is no longer a real grave threat compared to what it was, with Texas and Oklahoma having the type of power that they did. But yeah, I'm not I'm not on board with thinking that San Diego State and SMU are some saviors, like how it's been spun in some ways. But I also am not really like full gung-ho on the Big 12 is going to go grab their teams and crush that conference. I don't know that getting the Arizona schools alone does that. Now, if you're telling me that they're going to go grab 4 schools, then okay. Then, yeah, we're probably breaking this thing on down and moving it to the retirement home. I mean, because at that point, you'd be left with, 8 teams? Yeah. And no matter who you go and get, it's not really going to fill the void. I mean, especially if you already have the teams you have and you're struggling to get a TV deal, how is it going to possibly get any better if you're getting even lesser teams with lesser fan bases and lesser money? I know the money thing with SMU can be debated or whatever, but they don't bring a huge audience. So, yeah, I mean, I think it stays together based on what we see right now, but I don't think it's on very firm foundation, that's for sure. And all it takes is Brett Yormark just in the middle of the night swinging a deal that you do grab 2 to 4 of those schools, and next thing you know, then yeah, panic sets in. But I'm not quite to that point myself just yet, because I'm not completely sold that there's a couple teams that are really willing right now to make that jump full force. I think everybody's still in wait-and-see mode and kind of figuring out and testing the waters a little bit. But who knows? That could change on a dime depending on, how the rest of these TV negotiations go and what that ultimately looks like.
From Utah, mentioned Utah went from $200 million per year in research to $600 million per year with the Pac-12 addition. Arizona schools, Colorado, similar leaps. Here's the deal. Yes, and that's probably a lot more important than anything a TV deal can get you based on the media rights for your conference. But how much does that affect or move the needle when it comes to networks?
That doesn't go on the scoreboard.
You keep hearing that. It's kind of like back when the Big 12 had their issues and you started seeing, well, who's an R1, who's AAU, and who has the endowments. It's kind of a default mechanism. Here is the bottom line. The Pac-12 does not have a network deal. We don't know if they have one and they're just waiting to announce it, because that would be stupid if they did, because it does appear as if they're kind of like drowning. So I don't know who benefits. Everybody does by being a part of a conference with all of the endowments and the academics and all that. How much does that help move the needle for ESPN? Apparently it doesn't move the needle for Fox. How much does it move the needle for ESPN? Now, if California or Stanford or Arizona State or anyone else, they want to just worry about the endowment and the student and the admissions and enrollment and all that, fine. They're going to be just fine. But what about what happens with their athletic department? All of them will survive whether they have athletics or not. There's so much misinformation out there. And you got to be careful about where you're reading it and what you're hearing it, who you're hearing it from. Because, man, I tell you what, I'm not so sure there's not people behind enemy lines who are trying to feed the trolls a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, this is big-time college athletics, not big-time college academics. Yes. I mean, I know that some of that comes into play as far as, like, Big Ten membership and things like that. So if you want to bring it up as far as, like, does Stanford have a chance to get in the Big Ten? Sure they do, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about, surviving and joining the Big 12 or somewhere else and remaining relevant in big-time college football. And you've got at least 2 programs of the ones remaining, and you're losing your big cash cow in USC, but you're losing, both LA schools. But, I mean, how much do Cal and Stanford care? I mean, that's a legitimate question that's been asked, I think, multiple times, and I don't think that they're the most attractive, especially Cal, the most attractive dance partner, that even if you are like, well, we'll just go get other teams. Like, I know that San Diego State or Boise State or whoever would jump at the chance to go and join the Pac-12. But, like, this whole, like, we won't let you into our club that was going on back during the Big 12, that's what really rubbed people the wrong way. That that arrogance of, well, we wouldn't even allow you to come into this conference. That's what really rubbed, people in the Midwest, in the Bible Belt, the wrong way, of this snooty looking down on these institutions like they don't matter because they're not in California and they're not R1 or whatever the hell else. But put them out on the football field and let them play. That's all that we're talking about. We're not talking about classroom wars. We're talking about football and basketball and the money-generating athletics. All that other stuff has its place, but I don't think it has as much of a place as maybe it's made out to be when it comes to looking at your future in big-time college football, big-time college basketball.
And that's what answers, and that's part of the deal. And do Stanford and Cal care? Yes, they care. How much do they care? We don't know. I'm sure they do, and I'm sure they're looking for opportunities themselves, whether it is to keep that conference intact. Because to me, if Stanford and Cal joined at the hip, and maybe they are, you would think they would be, but are they joined at the hip enough to keep that conference alive? Because they are, dating way, way back. John Teal, thank you I hope I said that right. Baylor, Houston, TCU, Be My Valentine, love the PAC. Thank you very much for the $2 super check. From let's see here. I just lost it. From Japhus Cavill. Great point, gentlemen, regarding expansion. The last commissioner with a significant appetite for expansion and institutions that had similar interests left for the NFL in Kevin Warren. The president and chancellors did not.
Did Oklahoma and Texas leave for the SEC for academic reasons?
No.
No, I don't think that they did.
There was probably no.
I know that's different than Pac-12, Big 12 because of this, how much money's being made and all of that. But, I think they'll be just fine academically. They don't have to be in the top conference to be, high at certain, things in terms of academics and research and all of that. I get that there's a difference depending on where you look. But, yeah, look – all that's great, but if you don't have a football game that most of the country can watch, then who the hell cares, honestly? Yeah. Because, that's why because here's the thing. I'm not talking about Cal and Stanford in my everyday life. I'm sure academics and big-time brains do, and that's cool. I'm not one of those people. So the only time I'm talking about these schools is based on athletics. And I think for probably the majority, that's the case, is you're talking about them because of athletics. If they're not on my TV and I have to go search them out, guess what? I'm not watching Cal football or Stanford or any other example you want to give. And so as far as, all that stuff goes, that's fine. But give me that Fox broadcast deal with a little ABC sprinkled in and a bunch of ESPN and lesser academics if we're talking college football and basketball versus get my Amazon Fire Stick out to go watch your 12 o'clock midnight Friday night game, but hey, your academics are great.
Where I do think the academics makes it difficult, or where it stops it, is if you've got all that research money tied up, then that will slow you down from just being mad at what happened at the meeting, right? So you didn't like what happened at the meeting, or you didn't like, you're mad about this or that, or this not getting done, or you feel like you're the little brother. That academic dollars will slow you from just going, that's it, we're gone, because you don't want to just leave that behind if it's going to be affected. But it doesn't mean you won't do it. It just will stop you from making a rash decision.
We are a sports talk show. We do discuss business and media. Who won last year's national championship in academics?
I don't know.
Probably
I don't
Stanford.
give a damn.
Yeah, probably Stanford.
And maybe it was Harvard. I don't know. But we are discussing college athletics, football, men's basketball, and others as well. Immaculate said this. I don't know if this is true or not, but Immaculate, thanks for the comment. Stanford and Cal want the rest of the conference to leave so they can remake it as their own West Coast version of the Ivy League. I don't know if that's true or not. I really don't. But we appreciate, Immaculate, your comment. You probably have a reason for you to say that, so we do appreciate that. Also, there's arguments about who are the flagship schools in the states. In Utah, everyone may think Salt Lake City in Utah, but is it Brigham Young? In Arizona State's a big school, but maybe it's Arizona. In Colorado, is it Colorado? Yes. There's a lot of those questions or whatever. From RH5, how does the next TV deal play into realignment? Are people even thinking about that far down the road based on what we may or may not, or what may or may not happen? Absolutely. I think that's why the Big 12's contract It's not like 9 or 12 years because we saw how it's handcuffed the ACC.
Well, yeah, if you look at the ACC, they're the only ones that's not really lined up all that well. Like everybody else is kind of coming around to where their deals are all going to be about the same time. Like that's what begs the question about like down the line, like 5-10 years or whatever, when the next round of contracts come up. That's what's really going to be curious is what does that next evolution look like? Because there's not any more brands really that could jump outside of those ACC schools, and we know they're still locked down for several more years. Like we know that Florida State and Miami and Clemson and North Carolina, for just starters, like there's your starter pack, they would be coveted by the Big 10 and by the SEC, and hell, I'm sure the Big 12 would love to get whatever leftovers they could with, as far as certain schools go. But yeah, I mean, that's the part that we don't really know just yet is we just got through this, 2 summers of massive brands moving unexpectedly to massive conferences. And now it's the turn of the Big 12 and the Pac-12 to jostle for the TV deal. Well, the Big 12 jumped ahead in the line, and that seems to have screwed the Pac over. It looks like it was a pretty brilliant decision by Brett Yormark, but to what extent, we don't know just yet. And that's the question right now is like, what is that next wave? Because it's either the Pac's getting some teams poached and then that trickles down, or everybody's staying as is for the time being, and maybe some schools get promoted like San Diego State, for example, or SMU. But beyond that, yeah, it's hard to see what that next wave really looks like. And so that's a very curious, future, I think, ahead for everybody that we're all trying to figure out if you're not, especially in either the ACC or in the Big Ten currently.
We're going to hear from Colin Beaver a little bit. He's at a TV station at El Paso, has been covering that New Mexico State men's basketball story. Clint Moses, of course the Big 12 doesn't want to talk academics. We didn't start this show so we could have the top 10 academic schools. We mentioned the men's basketball rankings and college football. Is it important? Absolutely. Is it more important than the bigger picture in life? Hell yes. It is. Absolutely. I wish I was even got a letter from Stanford. I don't know if I would have gone there. I don't know. I couldn't afford it. But that's not, when it comes to this show, that big of a deal.
So circling back to how the Big 12 angst all started, I just rewind to my part about how the Pac-12, when they thought the Big 12 was going to die, was ha, 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 and you dumb asses and you rednecks and you middle America morons and all the other things that were thrown. And then you want to actually question why the Big 12 fans might have a little bit of backlash for the Pac and maybe want to watch its snobby ass die. That's the kind of comments why. That's exactly the example of why, is that looking down. And I'm not saying that's how I am, but that's a prime example of why a bunch of K-State fans or Baylor fans or, whoever, Texas Tech fans get a little bit up in arms and defensive, was because that same air of superiority was, the whole flavor of the month whenever Oklahoma and Texas decided to leave. But yeah, I mean, nobody's debating who's got better academics, but we are a sports show. So we are debating on how much we're actually going to be talking about Pac-12 athletics. And that's part of that expansion and realignment conversation. And that's what we're all trying to figure out. Not who's got better book learning and all of those types of things, but I'm just some dumb hick from Texas. So
yeah, but if it gets into book learning and academics, I'm out.
I'm out too. Who's signing up for that? I mean, they can go do that podcast somewhere else.
Mike Terry Craig is totally on point today. Perfectly said, amen, all of that along the border. Here we go. We're not done. Coming up next, Colin Beaver on New Mexico State's basketball, and some of the background on the coach and what is happening. He even said that there was a chance his segment with us today might get bumped because maybe there's some sort of decision on the future of the coach and or coaching staff. That and more. We know they're not playing any more basketball games. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Still and Pipe with a brand new location on the Loop in Waco, Loop 340, which is just on the east side of I-35. A brand new location, a 2,500 square foot showroom with dozens, hundreds of new pieces of what you need when it comes to building things, different sizes, different lengths of tubing and much more, of which before you would buy it and then go need it cut. You either cut it or somebody else did. Now there's so much more space for so many different lengths of tubing, channel, iron, all of that. What you need, it's there where you don't have to worry about, do you have room in the back of your pickup truck or some big, huge truck that you're going to haul it to. For commercial and real estate, that's what they do. Metal buildings is their specialty. 1943 is the go-to number. That's when they opened up the doors, and here we are. It's now 2023, and they are thriving. Bigger, better, faster, stronger, but the same values of what opened the doors and allowed them to weather all of any storms of the big box stores or economic issues, whatever it might be. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, just off the loop, just off of I-35 on the east side, Loop 340, pioneerboys.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Colin Deaver works for KTSM TV in El Paso. started looking around a couple of days ago for information, those who would be interested in discussing the story involving what has happened at New Mexico State and obviously the cancellation of their last 6 games, forfeiting their last 6 games of the men's basketball season. Colin joins us, Craig, Paul, David Smoak on 365 Sports. Colin, what is the next step? They've canceled the games. Where is the coaching staff, and how is that tenuous with their jobs?
Well, right now they're on paid administrative leave. The assumption by myself and I think basically everybody is that that's not going to last for much longer and that they're all going to be fired. However, at 2:45 Mountain Time here on Tuesday, we're still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen in that regard. I've heard rumblings of a press conference later today to maybe do that. There's a Board of Regents meeting, a closed Board of Regents meeting at 5 p.m. today to potentially discuss that. I don't know for a fact that that's what they're talking about, but I would imagine that that's what they're talking about since they only just scheduled the meeting on Saturday. So really, it's all kind of still on the table. I think the majority of us kind of have a pretty good feeling of where this is going, but given how they've handled a lot of these things, since dating back as far as the shooting in November up in Albuquerque, I think you just, until something is concrete in front of me that it's happening, I don't want to say for sure what is going to happen because it's just been a roller coaster with this team since November.
Outside of the coaching staff, does the athletic director have to feel uncomfortable here because he's the one who brought these guys in? And have you felt since November that this is a ticking clock even before you heard about the hazing incident?
I always thought after the shooting in November that there should have been more of a push to potentially move on from Greg Heier, maybe even cancel the season then. I mean, it was really toxic. Then obviously you have a active player on your team the night before your biggest rivalry game, kill a student that's a member goes to your rival school. The details of that case are that the men's basketball player that did that acted in self-defense, but the point stands. I mean, that's a dark day for your program. He was out after curfew with a gun on a road trip. So I thought that even then they had grounds to maybe make some moves. And this is even worse, right? I mean, it adds to the stain of the program that's been put on it by Greg Heier and his staff since 11 months ago when they got hired to take over for Chris Jans. People I've spoken with seem to think that the athletic director, Mario Mocha, might be safe, but you never know. I mean, this is a toxic thing, right? I mean, it's terrible. It's things you never hear about, you never want to hear about anywhere in college athletics as well. So I couldn't say for certain that he's completely safe, but right now that's kind of what I'm hearing is that most people think that the athletic director is going to be around still.
Colin, you referenced the alleged self-defense shooting from a player that got this ball rolling, and we talked about this a bit yesterday. Like, you can see the CCTV footage for the morbidly curious and all that, and there's a lot that's been written about that. But what about this latest chapter that got us to where we are here, the hazing, whatever else may be going on as far as you know, what knowledge you have? The shooting kind of set this all off, but how did we get to this point where now they're throwing their hands up and going, okay, we got to put a stop to this for the time being?
Well, while the team and the police and whoever, they're investigating the shooting and potential involvement of some other players, plus potentially hiding evidence after the shooting. After all of that happens, you would think that while that is happening, they would be operating under the most squeaky clean of circumstances. And apparently this entire time, dating back to last July or August, according to a police report that we received on Sunday, 3 players of the New Mexico State men's basketball team have basically been sexually assaulting a teammate of theirs in the locker room. The police report details that multiple times they would pin him down in the locker room, remove his pants, they would slap his butt, they would touch his genitals. And this, again, happened in the locker room and on road trips, frequently, according to the police report, in front of the entire team, and no one ever intervened. So that's kind of the culture that had been fostered this year, where this was allowed to go on. And that's what led ultimately to the cancellation shutdown of the program. The chancellor had some very strong words to say in a statement on Sunday saying, quote, it was time for a program reset. So I think that gives you every indication, even though they have not made that move yet. I mean, if the chancellor is coming out saying it's time for a program reset, to me, that says it all without actually making the move.
How much is the coaching staff in trouble for the hazing incident because they knew about the hazing, didn't say anything, or is this ignorance on their part and they did know about it, which means they're not involved enough in their own locker room?
I don't know. I just don't know that for enough to say for certain. I've heard different things regarding that, right? I've heard that they may have known and didn't do anything. I've heard that they didn't know. So I don't want to say for certain and, convict them in the court of public opinion either way on that. But regardless, I mean, this is happening in your program all the while there's an investigation into a deadly shooting involving one of your players. So if you didn't know, in my opinion, you should have known, because you're the head coach, you're the assistant coach, whoever you are in that program, you're in charge of these kids 18 to 22 years old to make sure they're doing the right thing. And that's why you get paid. Greg Heier gets paid $300,000 a year in the grand scheme of college athletics. That's not a lot, but for the normal person, $300,000 is a lot. And he's getting paid that much money to oversee this team. And from what it seems like, from all the events, from all the incidents they've had, it seems like that wasn't happening.
Colin, the hiding of evidence, of course, is, it's not sometimes the crime, it's the cover-up. And sometimes, of course, it needs to be both. But when they canceled the season, was there any, wait a minute, what about all the other players who aren't involved? But you just mentioned that everybody saw allegedly saw everything. So there was nobody stepped up, or you think that because they had fear of retribution?
Yeah, you'd have to think maybe that's the case. And there's also a line in the police report that there was potentially another player that was subjected to this treatment. So, yeah, it's hard to say. I think at this point how deep it runs. We've been doing our best to get to the bottom of it. I think that's going to take weeks, months, maybe years before we really know how deep this went within that program. But, certainly it's not a good look for, the victim in this case to say, I was being assaulted in the locker room by three of my teammates frequently in front of other people. And I don't know. I mean, if this were happening to me or my son or my daughter, I would hope that somebody would have stepped up to stop it. And from what we know right now, that didn't happen. And that's, again, just an indictment on the entire culture of the program.
Was there any kind of at least, wait a minute, what are they doing back when the head coach was hired because of his connections to LSU?
It's funny you mentioned that. I did ask that question when he was hired 11 months ago. He was, again, like you said, on staff with Will Wade at LSU. Heier was on staff at Wichita State with Greg Marshall. At one point in time, he was at Southern Miss with Larry Eustace. So he has worked for some people who don't necessarily have the best reputation in college athletics. However, he has always kind of skated on that. There's never been, a public incident involving him that's come out that would maybe rule him out for being hired. So anyways, I asked him about that 11 months ago. And he said that, quote, you're guilty by association, and to judge him on who he is now and how he operates his program moving forward. And here we are 11 months later. And I think it's safe to say we can make our own judgments about his program right now.
Well, Colin, you were right to ask that question, because that's like getting a resume saying, look, I worked for, Bernie Madoff, and I worked for Enron, and I also, worked, I don't know, I can't think of another one, but I work for these three companies. But look, I'm not a bad guy. I'm that all the stuff they did was, I was just a guy working. That to me kind of seems silly, especially since you see what's happened on the back end of this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's been stunning to say the least. Everything that has allegedly gone on within this program. I can't remember if I've ever heard of something like this, like a hazing event. I hesitate to even call it a hazing event because it seems so much more serious than that. I can't remember something like this happening at the college level. I've heard of it at the high school level, but I don't think I've ever heard of something like this at the college level.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh? I bet you get a ding or a text or whatever, a phone call, and it's probably, oh my God, what's the next thing? But it seems like a lot of it is at least out there. Now the question is, what are the repercussions or consequences, maybe the better word, going forward? I hate for the young men that had the season shut down that perhaps weren't involved, or at least weren't involved in anything negative. I did see, and I think it was your timeline, that one of the best players to commit to New Mexico State men's basketball is asking for a scholarship release.
Yeah, 4-star recruit, Lowell Darius Carr. He signed with the. It's not. I mean, it's one thing to commit. He actually signed his letter of intent last November with New Mexico State as the second highest rated recruit in program history. 4-star recruit, consensus with ESPN rivals, 247, all of them. And today we actually interviewed him. My coworker Sam Guzman interviewed him a short time ago, and he's backing out. He wants to be granted his release from the program. I can't imagine that the school will fight him on it too hard to get his release. I will say that he also told us that he does still have some interest in going to New Mexico State. So, maybe if they bring in a coach that he likes, and the coach whoever they bring in, if they do go that route, will have to, be someone with a fairly clean reputation, you'd have to think. I mean, you can't just continue going this route of hiring guys with, some questionable backgrounds. I mean, it's going to have to be someone with a clean reputation, again, if they decide to go that route. But yeah, that's where it stands. The second best recruit in program history decommitting because of all this.
Wow. We saw what happened when Baylor had their deal, when Art Browse was fired, and they had one of maybe their highest rated class ever shredded within days after that. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. And obviously in basketball, not nearly as many players have signed or committed or already signed their, as you mentioned, letter of intent. Thanks for your time, Colin. Good luck. You're doing a hell of a job, by the way. You really are. You've got all the boxes checked. You're doing a hell of a job with not just the story, but the surrounding stories, and good luck with it going forward.
I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Colin Deaver, KTSM Television in El Paso.
Yeah, that's such a, again, you look at that's what one of the reasons I asked about the athletic director. You've got this guy, and these are the places on his resume. What do you think was going to happen?
Greg Doyle is a writer up in, Cincinnati?
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, I'm sorry. Hell of a writer. Don't always agree with his commentaries or columns, but I don't care. I love it. Well, he's a great writer. And he mentioned connected the dots of the hiring to what, okay, who made the hire, who allowed the hire to be made, and who approved the hire. And that, of course, is going to be the part of the consequences perhaps for those, not just in athletics, but also possibly with New Mexico State as this moves forward. Larry Pilgrim, a $10 super chat. You want to continue with anything on that?
It's just an ugly story. I don't think even if, like with the recruit thing, the top recruit, the NCAA is not holding anybody hostage. If he wants to leave, he's not going to have much of a fight. So, I don't think that's entering your name nowadays is, oh man, will he get cleared? He's probably already been cleared by the NCAA to go free, willy-nilly go wherever he wants to, and revisit wherever he needs to pick a new place. I think that's probably a foregone conclusion. And to me, saying I'll still consider New Mexico State sounds like lip service. Which is, the gentlemanly way to part ways and the cordial way to end things. But yeah, I can't imagine that anybody would want to, approach that program right now as radioactive as it is until there's a lot of cleanup done, because it sounds like there's just scummy stuff all over the place. Whether it's the hazing or whether it's the fact that a player killed somebody earlier this year because he was being set up to be robbed, and that's what kickstarted this whole thing. And then after he kills a guy, then the assistants have the gun all of a sudden, and they're helping to cover up parts of the killing, I don't want to say that exactly that way, but they were not being the adults that they were supposed to be. So, yeah, this all starts with a player getting jumped and, as he mentioned, having a gun like on a road trip, hanging out, and then ends up killing a guy. And then all the way to this point where you have guys getting openly sexually assaulted in front of other people, and nobody's. I mean, it's disgraceful. It's disgusting and disgraceful, and I hate that. There's stories like this that have to be covered, but thankfully Colin and anybody else out there that's covering that are doing the job that they're doing so that word spreads. And hopefully, if this head coach is as much of a scumbag as he appears to be, then maybe, just maybe, college athletics will do the right thing and everybody will agree to not hire this guy anymore. But as we've seen, there's been, even guys who have been muddier name-wise that have still gotten jobs after the fact because they could coach ball. So, lot to unpack with this story, but just really gross all the way around. And I hate it for the folks at New Mexico State and that community who are just, wanting to be alums or fans or whatever and, enjoy basketball or what have you and just be normal people and then have to, deal with the ugly side of human nature or human beings. And this is pretty ugly. There's no doubt.
Thank you to Colin for being a part of it. Yeah, retired stockbroker with a couple of super chats. Thank you, man. And then Larry Pilgrim, a $10 super chat. Larry's a huge Pac-12 fan, and he sees a lot of this going on. We want to, we love college athletics. And someone, I forget, it was something White that mentioned, really, there's not a lot that's really all that negative between the conference. Some fan bases, some have enjoyed one conference struggling from both ends of it, and then there's a history there. But Larry Pilgrim, I just want guys to know I never wish ill on anybody, on others, including college football conferences. We can't help as fans what happens and are self-interested when defending our team. Go Utes, and well wishes to 365 Sports. Larry, you didn't have to send us the super chat, but we do appreciate that. If you send the super chat, it jumps out at us in a special color. Sometimes this was a gold from Larry. Thank you, Larry. Good luck to the Utes going forward. We see them this fall, right?
Did we read John Teal's super chat?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, the $2 super chat from what he put up earlier, so we appreciate that. By the way, Jack McKenzie's doing like triple duty again. Was at the men's game last night, Baylor's win against West Virginia, producing, directing today, as Garrett has the day off until tomorrow. And we're back with more, the 4 o'clock hour. Mack Rhoades at 4:20, and this is 365 Sports. Don Chimidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. So I have cigars, and I usually, when I smoke cigars, it's while I'm playing a round of golf. I'll take 3 to 4 with me. I have a little Pelican case that I take with me, and that's about the only time. And maybe, and I don't get on the grill very often, I might smoke a cigar if I'm out grilling a steak and just enjoying a drink. But I don't do that as much as I used to. But I do have cigars. But I was noticing that some of them just weren't in the shape that they should have been, and I bought them brand new at Don Humidor with Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne. So I took my old humidor, let Ashley look at it, and there was a crack in the back that was just basically a bolt and a screw that had kind of gotten a little bit of a crack in the wood. I got a new one, and the cigars since that time have been perfect. None of them are flaking. None of them are too dried out. Don Humidor, I discuss all of the great brands of cigars, including 2 years ago, the number one cigar, the 1964 Cigar Padron. But they have what you want, what levels, size, what flavor, what aroma you want. But they also have all the accessories, including the humidor that I now have, that keeps all of my cigars in fantastic shape. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans. They also have CBD products, Vita Dreams to help you at night. Get a more relaxing, comfortable sleep in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Kick off 2023 with a bang at Allen Samuels in Waco. During the President's Day sales event, get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with total values up to $2,000 and 1.9% for 72 months on second and third row options. That's right, 1.9% for 72 months plus rebates. Or how about the 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $3,500 in total values plus an extra $500 to first responders at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Tonight, Big 12 basketball with Baylor and Texas at the top 9-4. KU can join them if they win in Stillwater against a pretty red-hot Oklahoma State. 8 o'clock that game on ESPN. Kansas State, 7-5, plays at Oklahoma, 8 o'clock on ESPNU. Again, right now, Texas and Baylor, 9-4, KU, 8-4, Iowa State, K-State, Oklahoma State, 7-5, TCU, 6-6. And, man, there's still, for some, 6 games. And by the end of the night and tomorrow night, there will be 5 games remaining. So last night, Adam Flagler, of course, is phenomenal. Keontae George had one of those nights. He didn't score a lot, but had a lot of rebounds and assists. Obviously, Jonathan Chalmachachua, what he's doing and what he's brought to this team, which is hard to fathom. Langston Love had a couple of threes. But last night, L.J. Cryer was 8 of 11 from 3. 8 of 11. Baylor was 14 of 27 from 3.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was he not like 8 of
12? He missed one shot. It was a regular.
Shot. Yeah. So, he missed one other shot, and then he had just 2 free throws. Yeah, Baylor really put it on West Virginia the second half, especially last night. But it was you've seen these games lately where they've played teams that they are head and shoulders above, where it's starting to look like they're putting it together. And with West Virginia, with a couple of teams, like with Tech, like it's close for a little while, and then like they've been able to do what was happening to them during that 3-game losing streak, right, Smokey? Where they controlled the game early, and then all of a sudden at the end of the first half, they were kind of losing control of it.
TCU eventually wore them down. Kansas State jumped out early, but eventually wore them down.
Yeah, and so now they are doing where they kind of take control at the end of the first half, and then don't really look back. I mean, that was almost even true in the Kansas game, even though Kansas made that one run and took the lead for about 30 seconds. And then after that, it was kind of all over. But Baylor controlled that game the entire time. So they're getting to the point where games are going pretty much how they want them to go. And that's a good place to be here in mid-February.
I thought it was amazing. He was, and again, they're shooting the lights out. And that's with Keontae George scoring 6 points. And I even asked this yesterday with Kendall Kalcraig, is that imagine, and it's hard, you're not going to get all of your guards shooting well one night, but they do have that ability with Flagler, Love, Cryer, and George. But you can see if you're not at the game, sometimes it's a little more difficult what Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua is bringing to the table with just his ability to communicate with the team, not on or around the bench, but in the game, getting people in the right position, which at times they seem like they were a little bit out of whack when it comes to that with a couple of those losses earlier in the year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a, 6-year senior at this point, right? Yep. I mean, he's been around a long time. He's the defensive player of the year in the conference last year, so he's played a lot of basketball. He's, definitely a bonus defensively. And, they're, not – you can't. Keontae George is a great player, but you can't expect him to come in and just be a leader or be even guys who are veterans like necessarily aren't going to be vocal. So clearly that was a piece that was missing when they lost him last year. They were not as good of a team once he went down. I mean, again, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, super seniors, played a lot of basketball. But, then to have him head into this year be such an uncertainty, and to get him back, I think probably far sooner than was expected. I mean, I know there was kind of a timeline, but I just assume, there's a chance they could play all year without him. Yep. I mean, I don't think that was really unfair to think might happen. And not only are they, playing with him, but they're playing with him at the start of February, basically. So pretty incredible job by, all involved in Jonathan most of all, but yeah, he makes a massive difference in many different ways, and to have him out there on the court, I mean, I don't think it's, the whole reason, because they were clearly on a streak before he came back, but there's just a different level to them, a different depth, a different nastiness, a different everything, edge to this team now that he's back in full control.
He gives them power, length, inside. By the way, last night, what I liked about him, he's been hitting some threes, including when he got back in that opening game. I guess it was against Tech, whoever it was when he returned. But he was 5 of 7 from the field, and he had a couple of turnaround jumpers. He had a jumper just inside the free throw line. So he showed more of the mid-range last night, which I thought was important. Here's Evan Miyakawa, good friend of our show. Thank you. Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua has already made a massive difference since coming back from the injury. When he's on the court, Baylor is outscoring opponents by 38.6 points per 100 possessions, adjusted for the opponent. Now, this gets real technical, but Evan is a genius at this. When he's not on the court, that mark falls to 21 points per 100 possessions. So there's a difference right there in what he's made when he's on the court compared to when he is not on the court, from Evan Miyakawa, who's joined the show with analytics a handful of times with us on 365 Sports. So that's the Big 12 in men's basketball. Someone asked about the Michigan State story. Just brutal. You had another one, right? Late yesterday evening, you started seeing the stories coming down that there was a live, active shooter on campus. Michigan State obviously canceled their men's basketball game tonight. They did not, or have not, at least the last time, and I looked a little while ago, for any motive. The 43-year-old man who killed 3 students and wounded 5 more just walked into a couple of buildings and just started unloading, and eventually was killed, Anthony McRae. And I mean, I hope we don't get, and sometimes I get worried about whether or not these stories, okay, there was another shooting on campus. I'm not going to get political on it. It sucks. It's awful. It happens too often. How it ends, I don't know. Everyone has their own opinion on it, but Michigan State men's basketball, which you could imagine is not going to play, and you wonder about how many more days until they actually do care about athletics with what happened last night in East Lansing, Michigan.
Yeah, we can't get political about it because it won't do us any good, and it won't, it's just going to divide the room and kind of wreck the show. But what I will say is it's terribly tragic, and I hope that one day we figure out a way to come together on the issue and make sure that this stops. That's all I can say.
I'm not going to say the dude's name. I wish you wouldn't even have said it. Screw that guy. I understand that people deal with things, and for all I know, I mean, maybe he was mentally out of his mind. I don't know, but screw that guy. I saw a short clip of – did they ever determine if that video – because I haven't looked around much if that video clip of the guy walking down the street was in fact him. He was wearing the same clothes, but there was some video of what they thought was a suspected shooter walking down the street at one point, and you can hear like the chatter inside the room where they were recording the guy. But there was another little blip, and it was Michigan State students who appeared to be in their dorm room, and they get word that the shooter's apparently like in whatever hall or room, and it was like where they, close by where they were, and you hear this like legitimate real life panic set in, like, oh my God, should we close the door? And that was just very real to me to hear that audio of them suddenly realizing, like, oh my gosh, now we're in danger potentially. And it's just awful. It's so awful and so scary, and don't wish that type of situation on anybody, obviously, but more and more people are starting to experience it, unfortunately. And I don't know how that stops, but it's just god-awful, and prayers to Michigan State and the people and families that were affected by that. I truly do, as best as I can as a human being. I know there's some people don't believe in this or believe in that, but I send my positive energy, prayers, whatever it is that you want to take it as. I'm sending that as best as I can, and hopefully, millions of others are as well, and that can make even the slightest bit of difference in helping comfort and heal those families. But I know that'll take a while, and if ever, because just have lives ripped away like that so senselessly it's tragic, and I'm tired of saying that word, but here we are.
When we come back, Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades and a Red Hot men's basketball team on, again, we had him on Friday. Paul interviewed him for about 5 to 6 minutes about the decision by the Big 12 on the agreement with Texas and Oklahoma leaving after 23-24. A couple more questions to follow up with that and more. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. I have a teeth cleaning appointment coming up next month, and can't wait. Used to always dread those. Used to always, even the dentist would call and say, hey, it's time for you to come get your teeth cleaned. And I was like, oh, my God. Because I never knew. Now I feel much more confident. That doesn't mean something can't go wrong, because it's dental work. So something can happen, whether it's a cavity, whether you need a root canal, or just everything's fine. You walk in. If you've been doing what you're supposed to do with treatment of your dental work, then a teeth cleaning issue should not be a problem. An appointment should not make you have anxiety. Used to do that all the time until I met Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental. What he's done to help me with my dental work, how he's helped me get my smile, not just back, but also feel better about it and not have the aches and the pains that constantly were, always a part of my life. Dr. Steve Childress is fantastic. He has served our country. He has also treated soldiers as well, and he treats you and me. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
What are you waiting for? Next year's New Year's resolution to lose weight, get fit, start working out? 3, 2, 1, go to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. If you really want to get in shape, get rid of weight or inches, you have to make a commitment to work out, and the excuses of not enough time, you're too tired or too busy. There's a special place that will change your life at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. And they have a commitment to you too. With personal trainers Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Bosch. State-of-the-art Cybex equipment, new weights and spin bikes, clean and spacious locker rooms, each with a whirlpool and sauna, and a staff that will know your name when you walk through the front door. Elite tennis facilities and a great tennis pro in Britt Coleman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a place you can call home, a place you can work out on your own or with 40-plus group exercise classes. It's time for you to get in shape, lose inches, get fit at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, Tuesdays joins us a lot. Like every week, unless he's out with something that's business related, and we never allow him to go on vacation. Neither does anyone else in the athletic department, because when he does, all hell breaks loose. Isn't that true?
I hope not. So I've got a great staff that probably they're better off when I'm not around. So they'd probably tell you that.
So of the reported money that Texas and Oklahoma are going to pay to leave early, and some of it goes to Fox, and I guess the other 80% of it, whatever the number might really be, to the rest of the conference, does that money go to the remaining 8? Does that get spread out to the incoming 4 as well, or is that money used for possibly new teams joining the Big 12 in the future?
Yeah, so primarily it's designated to the original 8, and again, when you think about the economics of everything, the 4 member schools, the 4 new schools didn't enter or join the league for free, and so we were having to distribute monies to those 4 institutions for, the last 2 years of the current TV contract. And, we didn't receive any additional monies from our TV partners, for the last 2 years of this contract for those 4 institutions. And so, there were monies, designated and promised to those. Okay, well, where do you get that, right? That has to cut into current distribution. And so, this helps us with making everybody whole when we think about the 8. And then it certainly can be used in addition for, if we, have our sights on, any other type of membership addition.
When it comes to any other type of membership addition, what has a university has to qualify for you guys to even start entertaining it again when it comes to expansion?
Yeah, I don't know that it's any different than what has happened, elsewhere, but I think, certainly your preference is a current A5 institution. Commissioner Yormark has talked about, looking out west. So when you think about geography, I'm certainly not aware of him retracting that statement. So, those are probably 2 places that you'd begin. Now, I'm not, I'm certainly not saying that we wouldn't, look at other potential candidates. And, so there's some different scenarios to play out. And certainly one of those is that we remain at 12. When we think about OU and Texas leaving, that, hey, we find out and we feel really good about the 12. And, right now we feel great about the 12 and where we're at. And so, we're going to be selective, and, there's a lot of factors, obviously you all know this, that play into this. And so, we'll see how this plays out, here over the next several months.
Mack, how much discussion was there when Brett Yormark or whoever it was that decided, hey, let's go and grab our TV deal now and not wait? How much discussion was that at the time, and was there any pushback, and is there a little bit of relief just now, given kind of some of the talk going around that that was a move that was made when it was made?
Yeah, Craig, there was conversation about, should we try to do this, and not knowing, how ESPN and Fox would respond. And, the way the agreement is written, we needed both of them to agree to, negotiate early. If one would have said yes and the other one would have said no, we wouldn't have had that ability to move forward. This new TV contract is not like that at all. But the current one, really required both to say yes. And so, we had conversation about, okay, well, the downside is, hey, going into the market, you're not going to have other, additional, potential, buyers and to help in terms of price point, no competition, drive it up. And I think we realized that, man, 2 years was a long time, and things can certainly change, and not knowing and understanding completely and having confidence in terms of the economy. And we really decided, hey, we may end up foregoing some monies, but our number one priority right now is stability. And so, being able to do what we did, and, thankful that ESPN and Fox both said yes. We'll have the conversation. I think we were very fortunate and blessed that, we have stability. And as time has gone on, obviously it looks like a pretty smart decision, just given the economic climate, and you're starting to see a lot of these, media partners lay off people, et cetera. So, but there was, very intentional conversation strategy about, how we move forward. And when you thought about it, and I spoke to this, on Friday with Paul, first was the TV agreement for us. Second, priority has been, what happens with OU and UT. And we're able to check off both of those. And then third priority is future membership. And so, we're now able to maybe focus a little bit more on what that means and does it make sense for us.
Mack, there's a lot of default mechanisms, and I'm not saying that in a way that's negative when a team is left out of a conference search or conferences are realigned or there's this opening or, who adds whom, whatever. Does, in the end, I know what's important to academic institutions and all of that, money, endowments and all of that, but does any of that matter when it comes to bottom line athletic television media rights deals?
I'm not sure I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, Smoak, and I'm sorry if I'm not following it.
Does research money matter when it comes to television rights deals?
It's a great question, and probably my immediate answer would be no, but let me take a step back. I think for some presidents, some boards, hey, we're not going to look at a particular school because of their academic profile. And, I think a great example of it is the Big Ten. And so, they're comprised of, AAU institutions, except for one. And that particular institution was a AAU institution and lost that membership. And so, if the Big Ten's looking to add any additional institutions, I'm not sure that they're going to look at anybody that's not an AAU institution. And so, I do think that absolutely, depending upon the conference and which way, it goes, it has some value, and it certainly can be a factor. The probably biggest driver is the brand. And when we think about athletics, and it's eyeballs, it's viewership, and it's eyeballs viewership when we think about linear and how many people are following, watching. That's probably the biggest factor, but it's certainly not the only factor. So, I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you very much. By the way, there was a compliment for you about last week when we were discussing the Texas and Oklahoma exit. Wanted to read this to you, and we have the questions. S. Michael DeHart, past my admiration on the Mack for his breakdown last week about OU Texas exit. His overview definitely prepared us for the ultimate exit and put the sports journalist to shame as far as speculation. So we appreciate. This is from S. Michael. He's a West Virginia fan.
Oh, well, that was nice of S. Michael. Appreciate that.
Mack, your basketball team, your men's basketball team is red, smoking hot right now, and seem to come together at the perfect time. What's it like been watching this ride the last 3 weeks or so?
Yeah, it's been certainly fun to watch, and yet, man, I still don't think we're playing our best basketball. And that's not necessarily a conversation I've had with Scott, but I still think we can get better. JT, Jonathan back into the lineup, right? There's some adjustments and how we play, and I still think we're going through that process. Certainly, LJ right now is playing at a high level, particularly the last couple games, and Adam's playing well, and Keontae, is playing well, maybe not scoring, but you look at, last night, and I think he had 9 rebounds and seven assists, and Jalen, but I still think, we're in this process of with the added dimension of Jonathan learning how to play together. So it's been a little bit of a reset, but it's been exciting to watch. And again, for me, I think what's most comforting is, I still think we're going to be better than what we are today. And now we're going to need to be, because we got a brutal stretch here. Last night was a hard fought game, and now it's at Kansas State, and so it's a battle every single night. You look at, for example, what Texas Tech did last night, and Kansas is at Oklahoma State tonight. I think Oklahoma State has won 5 straight, maybe. So there are no easy games, but it's exciting to watch. And again, I still think our best basketball is ahead of us.
No matter who the AD is of a school, the president, alum, whatever, coach, everyone would love to see everyone around them win. And yet you are kind of like, all of these programs are under your umbrella and your staff, and I get it, President Livingstone and everyone else, but night in and night out, you have to watch these teams compete. Not only care about them and make sure that they're taken care of and all of what they're doing as well to be a part of Baylor. Is that ever like something that wears you down, the ups and downs of watching teams have great runs or struggles or whatever?
Man, that's a really great question. And I think I would be probably disingenuous if I said, no, it doesn't wear me down. I don't get on that emotional roller coaster. I would tell you that I try not to, because I think if you do, then you're absolutely worn out. So I try as best I can not to, and have perspective, and make sure that I'm focused on process rather than results. But it's hard. There's such an emphasis on winning and winning now that it's hard sometimes. And so I try not to get on that roller coaster, but sometimes it's harder than said. And so it's a battle. It's a battle that I have to deal with. And if you're a leader, you can't be on that emotional roller coaster, and particularly when times are hard. You've got to be able to be stable and see big picture, and make sure that we can look in the mirror honestly, and if there's things that we're not doing well, ways that we can be better, that we see that and we address them immediately, not 3 weeks later, 2 months later, off season, but that we can do them as we're going through the process.
Mack, we appreciate it. Your alma mater is Arizona. They're part of the Pac-12, and obviously they're sitting there trying to figure out their future. When you were at Arizona, obviously when you went to college there, but you've also followed them along the way, was Arizona attached in particular to any specific school in the Pac-12, is kind of like, or in the Pac-12 is so-called, we do whatever you do? Was there any of that kind of a joint at the hip with anybody?
Well, I think, just right up north in, their biggest rival, Arizona State, it's always been perceived that they're tied at the hip, and, what one does, the other other will do, vice versa. I don't think that's the case. I think that, both are independent. They have a common board. Can't remember if it's board of trustees or board of regents. And so they have a common board, but I do think they have the ability to be independent if that's, the case and that's the pathway here in the future.
Mack, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. We'll see you at the next game.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Happy Valentine's Day.
You too. Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, on 365 Sports. And some of you who have commented on the chat room during his interview about the weekly opportunities, including last week when he gave us extra time, when he gave us some extra time with Paul on Friday morning after the decision was made, the agreement with Texas and Oklahoma. I was going to say, did you all sit around and have like a glass of wine with everybody from Austin and Norman after the agreement was reached? Because they have to get along. They have to get along, but you now wonder, everyone gets to move on. Everybody knows the timeline, and I think that's absolutely healthy.
I did ask him that last Friday was, does this now allow, now that everybody knows what the score is and who's leaving when and what the money and all that's worked out, there's going to be some petty nonsense, from fans, because there's always petty nonsense from fans. It's what makes you fans. And most of that's pretty fun a lot of the time because it is petty and it's silly, but if you take it the right way, it's fun. But I do think that it will make for a much smoother exit in that you're not going to have these things. But he did say, I guess that depends on how the officiating goes. But, it is, I think at the end of it, and he said, it probably does, because now you don't have this hanging over your head of, when is this going to be over? Is this going to be finished? And you can just move on and start doing your thing.
Well, now you can have the farewell tour. We know it's the farewell tour. We know it's the last time Texas will play in Waco, or the last time that Oklahoma will play so-and-so, in that spot, or period. Maybe at all. I don't think Texas and Baylor are playing again anytime in the foreseeable future. Maybe not ever again in Mack Rhoades' tenure, even if he's around for another 20 years. 20 years, maybe they'll cross paths. I think at that point you probably run through a lot of non-con opponents, and who knows what the hell the world looks like at that point, but especially in college football. Now we know. I think that, if you want your opportunity to see Oklahoma, and I forget their schedule off the top of my head, but play at BYU or whatever, you better go this year. This is your opportunity, and beyond that, you don't know if you'll ever see that again. So I think that'll make for some electric crowds. You got some sense of that last year, but I think everybody kind of knew, this isn't how they're going to wrap it up, with us not really sure, right? So now we know, and now everybody can react accordingly. Now, that doesn't mean you go and you do, the whole Derek Jeter, Adrian Beltre, here's your personalized cowboy boots to say goodbye, and, here's your whatever, trinket that, is big in Ames or, wherever. You're not going to do that kind of very cordial, friendly, so long farewell. But, just eye to eye, acknowledge each other, maybe even fist bump and go your separate ways, and just have some level of mutual respect, because no matter how you feel currently, you've been through a lot over the last couple of decades, and you're some cases better for it, some cases worse for it, but hopefully everybody's better for these moves, and that includes the ones going to the SEC and the ones that are staying around in the new Big 12 and the ones that are coming in, and everybody can somehow find a win in the end of this.
Yeah, I think their farewell tour guests, had it been contentious, would have been, this is fertilizer cultivated from the cage of our live mascot.
Well, why is this box of boots ticking, you know?
But,
I don't know about, I can't speak for the schools and those involved. I can speak for someone who's covered the Big 12 for a long, long time. It does seem to me to be refreshing that we know the ending.
Yes.
That there's not this dark cloud, and at times it has been very contentious, and at times it's been even bitter and negative from either side. It's not just what Texas and OU may feel, but everyone else. It's nice to know there's an end date.
Well, I think it helps the Big 12 that they also know a TV deal is in place, and they know what to expect, because a lot of the angst is not only, hey, you tried to stab us in the middle of the night in the complete dark, stab us in the back and get rid of us. without anybody noticing, if not for a tip to a newspaper reporter. I mean, outside of that, who again knows when we actually find out from Oklahoma and Texas when they're leaving, and does it give the conference enough time to even make a move to go grab the 4 schools that they did grab? Are they in a position right now to potentially go poach some more? Nope, definitely not, right? If it happens differently. So, yeah, I mean, it worked out, the best for, I think, all involved. Ultimately, it maybe wasn't the way that it was planned initially, and that's a whole nother subject. But, regardless, the Big 12's been made whole with the new additions and with the TV contract, and they're on solid footing for the foreseeable future. It's not free and clear for the next 100 years. You have nothing to worry about by any means, but at least for these next few, everybody can just, hey, we'll be on national TV. You can watch our games. We know who we're playing. We know who's going to be steadfast with this conference. Like all those things, and that was all a question mark. All of those things were various question marks just about a year ago, if not a few months ago.
Yeah. Ironically, the Big 12 owes Texas A&M a huge debt of gratitude for leaking this information. And Texas A&M is one of the reasons they're in this spot in the first place. Yep. But I want to call attention for our listeners and viewers to something that Mack said, and then pair it with something that we heard Dennis Dodd say yesterday. Remember, Dennis Dodd said that Brett Yormark's not going to go raid a conference. He's going to sit in his rocking chair and see how things play out. And then when I asked Mack what the qualifications were, he said you'd certainly, and then again, like I said, the third tier one could be outside that, an A5 school, which we call the P5. So a Power 5 school and in the West. So that tells me that the Big 12 is, while you could coin it as aggressively looking for expansion, I think the term aggressive is a little bit different.
Aggressive?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Like, aggressive doesn't mean like they are like out there knocking on doors right now, but they are probably aggressively within the organization of the Big 12 preparing bids for whatever would happen to see what happens out west with probably the Pac-12 if any of that happens. And if that doesn't happen, then I don't think expansion is necessarily on the table. So that's a big, that's a little seesaw that you're going to be on. So when the next time you hear like, oh, well, Colorado is rock solid, but Utah's mad. Well, remember that until the whole thing kind of starts to come apart, which could not be here, then it may not happen for either side.
I thought he also made it very clear that despite the fact that they share the same board of regents or whatever you want to call them, trustees, that Arizona and Arizona State are different thinkers. As far as that doesn't mean they don't agree on things, but they're both independent of each other despite being under somewhat of an umbrella.
Sounds to me like if one of those schools were to come calling and there's mutual interest, the Big 12 will be ready, to your point, yeah. Paul.
They'll
they will be ready
call.
They'll answer the call and they'll be ready to move.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to be like, all right, well, give us a few months to prepare for what. No, they're going to be like, all right, and next step is this, and let's go, and off to the races.
Yeah. $9.99 super chat from King Williams 3D. As much as I hate the fact that OU and Texas are leaving, I must thank them, because if the news hadn't broke about their departure, I wouldn't have discovered this awesome show.
Thank you, King William 3D. We do appreciate that, because I would say that maybe all of you, there were originals that listened to us previously where we were in radio, and then we started out with what we did, and then, we have a lot of you joined because of the speculation or the concern about where your favorite team or conference, what was happening, and my God, we're so glad that you joined us and found us, and it's been fantastic. 28,200 subscribers now since April the 6th of 2020. All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar, Super Bowl numbers and more. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, and the people that I've counted on a lot of different times throughout the years. They are my go-to whenever I've had car issues to deal with, whether that be fender benders or oil changes or tires or what have you. They have been the people that I have counted on, and a big shout-out to Donnie and company over there. But right now over at the dealership, the Texas size selection is back. Over 150 vehicles on the lot, ready to drive home today. That includes dozens of Sierra trucks. That also includes 2023 Buick Envisions, the 2023 GMC Sierra SLT 1500, the regular GMC Sierra model. They have special financing on that right now. Limitations do apply, so do talk to the folks over at Richard Carr for the details. But when it comes to the Sierra truck, dozens of those on the lot right now. They also have, as I mentioned, the 2023 Buick Envision. It's a luxury SUV, but it doesn't come with the luxury price tag. It's a smooth and quiet ride as well, and you can get lease payments with a certain amount of cash down or trade at $269 per month. You can save thousands on this purchase, but again, contact dealer for details. So those are a couple models. Sierra trucks that are in stock now, the Buick Envisions in stock now, but those are just a couple of the over 150 vehicles they have amongst their selection. And maybe you're not looking to buy new. You're not interested in the 2023 GMC Sierra SLT 1500. You're not interested in the 2023 Buick Envision. You're interested in like a 2019 or a 2020 or just something that's not brand spanking new. Well, they understand that, and right now they also have a lot of quality pre-owned vehicles on the lot, cars and trucks in stock, many of them under $20,000. They're affordable, they're thoroughly inspected, they're also ready to finance for almost any credit rating. They have quality vehicles ready to drive today. So they can hook you up with the new vehicles, they can hook you up with some older model vehicles as well. They can also hook you up when it comes to customer service with their award-winning service department that I've dealt with and that I talked about at the start of this. I can give them 2 thumbs way up for the way they handled my vehicle a couple of times over the last year or so. Go ahead and go over to the website if you do need some service, richardcarr.com, and you can see their specials and also set an appointment for quick and reliable repair or service. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr's built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance. You get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or CreateACommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports, a segment on Tuesdays and Thursdays around this time, just taking a look at a grab bag of various stories that we might not otherwise get to, although I'm pretty sure we would have at some point mentioned the Super Bowl ratings, but that's where I will start for today's edition, and they were monstrous, as you might expect. Chiefs get the win over the Eagles, but two pretty big brands, and when all was said and done, good enough for the third largest broadcast in Super Bowl history. 112+ million people, or 112,173,000 to be somewhat exact, tuned into the broadcast on Fox. That is the third most watched all-time show in U.S. history, a 40.0 rating, 113 million viewers. That does include all of the various platforms from Fox Sports, but the highest-rated Super Bowl in 3 years, and that also featured the Chiefs taking on, that time, the 49ers, and the most-watched game across all platforms in 6 years, the highest watched since Patriots-Falcons. So highest-rated Super Bowl in 3 years, most watched across all platforms in 6, third highest all-time, 113 million folks watching the Chiefs beat the Eagles on Sunday.
Entertaining game. Two, maybe the best quarterback of our time, obviously with Brady retiring, and we can get into all the others that are, there's 4 or 5 others, but great game. Down to the wire game. It's the Super Bowl. Was there a controversy? There was
not
just
really.
A good
I mean, just that
game.
holding.
Rihanna's pregnancy. Other than that, but,
the tug and all that, but that wasn't really it. But I could see that. Two teams that are with Kansas City's got kind of a national brand, even though Kansas City's a smaller market, and then Philadelphia. My God, you got Philadelphia, and so I'm glad. Good for them. I didn't know it. I kind of don't know what I expected, but I thought it would be a massive crowd, a massive audience.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect anything. I thought they'd have a lot of viewers and didn't really play the guessing game much. But, I figured it would be a high number, and so 113 million viewers for Super Bowl 57. Super Bowl 49 is still the most watched program in TV history here in the U.S., as that was the Patriots and the Seahawks. That was also played in Glendale, but that was watched by 114+ million viewers, so about 1.5 million more when all was said and done, and that was the Malcolm Butler game against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. So that stands the test of time as the most watched broadcast ever, but now looking at third place all time for this one. And you also had, so it was Super Bowl, what would that be? 49 was the most watched ever, 114.4 million. That I just mentioned was the Patriots and the Seahawks. Then you had Super Bowl, that would be 48, which was the Broncos and Seahawks. So the Seahawks, actually, the two members of the two most highest watched Super Bowls of all time back in 2015 and then 2014. And then you have this one. Then there's Super Bowl 50 was the fourth highest most watched all time back in 2016. And then Super Bowl 46 back in 2012, the fifth highest watched most of all time.
Seahawks stopped by Malcolm Butler, Patriots, so you had that draw down to the last basically seconds. And the other one, was it not a blowout of Peyton Manning?
Seahawks beat the Broncos 43-8.
Yeah.
And that was the second most watched of all time.
That was when the opening snap went for a safety.
Yeah, but still, to this day, the most watched non-Super Bowl of all time. You have to go a bit of a ways after seeing just the one and only that's in there in the top 30. But the top 30 highest watched programs in TV history, 29 of the 30 are all Super Bowls. The only one that is not is the MASH series finale, 105.9 million back on February 28th of 1983. That remains the king of non-NFL TV shows and probably always will. But any memories, or I guess, do you realize what besides MASH would rank up there amongst the highest watched TV shows of all time that are non-Super Bowl related? You had MASH in 83, 106 million viewers. The next best is 83.6 million viewers. Any idea what that would have been?
Would that be Seinfeld, Friends, or Cheers?
Not number two. Number 2 all time, Dallas, the Whodunit episode. Back in 1980.
Larry Hagman and all them. Yeah.
So you had MASH in 83. The series finale had 106 million viewers. The Dallas Whodunit episode had 83.6 million back in 1980. The 93 series finale of Cheers, so you were close there, Paul, had 80.5 million. And then you get into like Winter Olympics territory, but that's it. That's the list. Those 3 TV shows. And otherwise, it is all Super Bowl, basically, when you look at the all-time most-watched broadcasts in TV history. Pretty impressive, the juggernaut that the NFL is and has become and probably will remain for a very long time in that regard, at least for this game. It's a tradition, and it's hard to imagine. Even non-football fans, it's a custom to participate in some form or fashion.
I didn't watch MASH, and there's a lot of like Cheers and MASH were shows that I didn't actually watch when they were live in prime time, and then I eventually got a hold of them and really enjoyed them. MASH in 83, what record would that be in sports as far as it's been basically 40 years? Babe Ruth had the home run record until Aaron broke it in, 74? 70?
And you know what? I'll tell you right now, based on streaming and all that other stuff, I don't think that's one. That might be like Ricky Henderson's stolen base record. That'll never be broken because the game has changed.
Well, the leading stolen, by the way, stolen base artist last year, the number one steals was 41.
Yeah. So Ricky Henderson used to steal 41 bases by the third month of the season. So I mean, what it started. So he was head and shoulders above. So I think MASH might be a record that will never be broken because there's so much other stuff out there now that nobody would, and you don't have to tune in right away. Like MASH in 1983, how many people had VCRs, right? It was, I mean, you did, but not everybody did. So it was still, the numbers are all completely skewed. So that's Ricky Henderson. That's never going to fall.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of other numbers like the halftime show viewership and things like that. But that's like, I don't want to get into like this is the most watched since unless it's really a high water mark outside of obviously the general game rating falling third all time. I think that's notable. But like this is the 5th highest and this is the 6th highest, and like I don't really care about that all too much. But this is one note, and then we'll move on from the Super Bowl. The city of Kansas City led all markets with a 52 rating, which is an 87 share, which do y'all know what that means?
No. 87% of the houses were watching it?
87% of homes with TVs in use in the city of Kansas City were tuned to the game. So 87% of the city of Kansas City was watching that Super Bowl at some point or another. Philadelphia, number 2, obviously, had a 77 share, so 77% of the households in Philadelphia. And then Cincy, Detroit, and Pittsburgh were also big viewers of the game as well. But, massive numbers for the Super Bowl. And actually takes me to another little ratings note here. Did you guys watch the other big game on Sunday besides the Super Bowl? Women's basketball. South Carolina and LSU.
Paul, what did you think about that one?
I did not watch it at all.
Okay.
I do think that I saw afterward Don Staley. Don Staley was wearing
Randall Cunningham's jersey.
Randall Cunningham jersey. Yeah. I thought that was kind of strange, but it was. I know how she did it though. I mean, like I can tell you how they won the game, other than South Carolina being a supremely great team.
So you think they shot a lot of threes?
I think they shot a lot of threes.
South Carolina does everything.
And I think
they're dominant.
And I think that they were very physical defensively.
Yeah.
And I think that Kim didn't defend the three, and I think that she didn't tell her team to shoot threes in response.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that much of a breakdown of it. I do know that they won by 20-plus when all was said and done. South Carolina did. So that was a huge win for them. That was number 1 versus number 3, and that was 2 unbeatens. So South Carolina is now 25-0, and LSU is now 23-1 this season under Kim Mulkey. But let me take a look at the box score here.
I'm going after it, too.
2 for 6 from 3 for South Carolina.
Yeah, Paul, you're wrong. They are dominant inside the way for many years Baylor was when they had all those great post players. They got Boston among others. In fact, they don't have to be. They're just that much better.
Well, I don't really bring it up to talk about the game itself.
Right. But
it was a massive game, though, in women's basketball, and it was a great rating as well. That is why I brought it up. Averaged a 0.8 rating, 1.47 million viewers tuned in on Super Bowl Sunday to watch LSU and South Carolina in a battle of the women's unbeaten's largest audience for a regular season women's basketball game since Stanford and UConn back in 2010. So it goes back 12 years, which is, I think that's lengthy enough to say, like, hey, that's a pretty big deal that you had the largest mark in 12 years. So that also featured, that game featured Stanford and UConn. But South Carolina has the 2 most watched games this year, the LSU game, and they also drew 1 million plus just a few weeks ago. Earlier this month, as a matter of fact, in their win over UConn. So Dawn Staley and crew not only winning a lot of games, but also doing so in style and doing so with a lot of viewers. One name, I don't think you mentioned this at the top of the show as far as coaching hires go. There's a lot of assistant coaching hires, and we'll kind of touch on them as they come and go, obviously. There's just a lot to keep track of there, and not everything's as much of always of interest, but it was interesting to see the name Kevin Sumlin pop back up again. You guys check that out?
I
Kevin
did not
Sumlin.
see that, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Sumlin hired as the tight ends coach at Maryland. So he is back and as the tight ends coach for the Maryland Terrapins after stints, obviously, at Arizona, Houston, and Texas A&M. He'll also be the co-offensive coordinator, according to On3's Maryland site, and most recently had been in the USFL. But, man, he had a little magic touch there for a little while, didn't he? And with old Johnny Football, and then ever since then it's kind of been hit or miss. But now he is in Maryland and will be their co-offensive coordinator and tight ends coach. So congratulations to Kevin Sumlin. And I see what time it is, so I'll go ahead and leave it right there.
Keep going.
You got a couple more.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Derek Carr yet or anything. So,
I mean, Derek Carr's a free agent if you want to chime in on that.
I think it's going to be interesting. I think Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, and Kirk Cousins live in this little area of they'll be good for your team if you put the right things around them. But they're clearly a level below. Like Patrick Mahomes is living by himself right now. And then there's like the close level of Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert probably. And Herbert's probably even below.
You're talking about the best quarterbacks in the NFL?
Yeah.
And you didn't mention Rodgers?
Well, I mean, let's see what happens with him.
I know,
he just had his worst year. I mean, look, I'm not going to sneeze at Rodgers. If I woke up tomorrow and he was the quarterback on the team I liked, I would be like, all right, that's a pretty damn good deal. I just don't know where he's going to go and what's going to happen with that. But I think if you're Derek Carr and you wind up with a team like the Saints, who appears to have some maybe weapons around you, or you wind up with a team, like the Bucks, perhaps, like that can maybe work out in your favor. I don't think you're probably going to win a Super Bowl, but you'll win more than you have. What he needs is consistency. 5 head coaches, 5 play callers in his career. Has never had that consistency. If you go somewhere that's consistent, then I think he...
Or is he just going to be a guy that he's just a good quarterback? He's just okay. Like, is he going to make a team like Washington any better if he goes there?
I think he may make Washington better. That's another good one. And Washington also is going to interview Eric Bieniemy for the offensive coordinator job. It's a job I think Eric Bieniemy should consider taking, because I think that if he is a place where he's the actual play caller, because it's Andy Reid in Kansas City, that will be the impediment to finally get this dude a head coaching job and see what he can do.
Yeah, I loved how Andy Reid mentioned his name at the end, as soon after the game, and that didn't hurt. And you're right. Go have success. You shouldn't have to, but go have success at another place.
No, he shouldn't have to.
That way, that kind of goes back on the resume of what you've done, not so much who you're connected to.
All right, a couple more here. Texas Tech announced new contracts for their entire coaching staff. All the full-time assistants receiving new multi-year deals. That's headlined by new 3-year contracts with defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter and also offensive coordinator Zach Kittley. So 3-year deals. It looks like DeRuyter's is worth around $3+ million. Kittley's deal about $2.5 million over those 3 years. But the other 8 full-time assistants also receiving new multi-year deals. So they are not sparing any expenses out in Lubbock, Texas right now. It seems like the money's just flying around, and obviously they're coming off a great year, so rewarding their staff and providing some stability for Joey McGuire. So a good move there. And I think obviously there's a lot of reasons for optimism heading into next year for that team that, I don't know, you'd probably slot them right now behind Texas, and then it'd be an argument about who else you would want to put in front of them. I think that I think Texas is the clear favorite for me. For me, they are. I don't mean that to say that they are like far and away way better than everybody, but they're my favorite to win it next year. And I think if they don't make the championship game, I think that you better have, like Quinn Ewers better have hurt something or something along those lines, because with the roster they have coming back, I just think that they need to be in that Big 12 title game, or it's not what it should have been.
And with how many weeks in a row not leaving the state of Texas?
Yeah. And they have a favorable schedule based on what the Big 12 released, so I think that they got to be the favorite. But then, it's arguably Texas Tech, or you think Oklahoma's going to have some huge resurgence, or maybe K-State runs it back despite losing Deuce Vaughn and Malik Knowles and guys like that. All in the eye of the beholder, but that's a good move for Texas Tech. And at some point we can get into the baseball rules. I don't know if you want to jump into the new rules, because there are a few of them, and I did get this sent to me last night, and I do want to give a shout-out to LSB Mike for sending that over.
Well, then if he sent it to you, let's go through this, because I read this.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this.
Let's go through some of the new ones.
There are some that have changed so dramatically.
The new shift rule. Basically, at the time a pitch is thrown, all 4 infielders are required to be on the infield dirt or grass with 2 on each side of second base, and they can move once the ball leaves the pitcher's hand. Do you have that so far? But basically the deal is to prevent this shift. If you start an inning at first or second base, the way that ESPN explains it, you have to remain on that side of the field for the rest of that inning. Mm-hmm. So if Joey Gallo comes up and you're playing second base, you can't move over to the other side of the You can't move over to the other side of the diamond and have that big, prominent shift that's going on. So wherever you start the inning, that's where you have to stay. You can move within reason, but you can't flip the sides of the field.
Wait a minute. So, but is the rule that you can only have 2 people on either side of the second base bag, or can you?
Yeah, it's 2 people on each side of the bag.
So basically, what we're telling hitters, and I'm not being an old man, get off my lawn, but you're telling hitters, don't learn how to hit the ball the opposite way because it's not fair.
Yeah.
You're encouraging that, basically. Yeah, that attitude, sure.
Well, it's weird. So I talked to Joe Kelly last week. Craig, I wish you would have gotten to meet Joe Kelly. You would have loved him. But Joe Kelly last week at Radio Row, and we talked about some of the new rules, but we kind of got more into, like, him more than that. But when he walked off, I said, hey, what do you think about eliminating the shift? And he's like, look, it's going to be harder for a pitcher. And he said, I'm not nuts about it. He goes, because, look, if I can't throw a strike, there's not a rule that I can make. There's not anything that I can do or the catcher can do. Like, the catcher can't move to another part of the plate to make sure that, the ball goes here.
Right.
Like, it's just, I either have to hit my spots or I don't. And so what you're telling hitters when you outlaw the shift is, look, we understand that you're never going to learn how to hit the ball the other way. So we're going to make the rules easy for you, because our game can get boring to some fans if we don't do it this way.
Yeah, I mean, they're dealing with the fact that there's low batting averages, there's low ratings, and they're trying to figure out a way to fix it. And so one of those ways is to, rather than have Joey Gallo go up there, and I hate to have to use him, but that's the guy who, is part of the reason why there's a rule being changed, is simply can't do it. They can't do it with enough regularity. That's part of the reason why batting averages are down, amongst other reasons. But so that's a rule. And then there's like the whole thing on how it'll be enforced, and that gets a bit complicated because it's like then it's up to the team, like on certain situations. But the basic gist, I'm going to stick with just the general rules and not so much the minutia of what could follow. So there's the shift rule. There's also the pitch clock rule. Pitchers will have 15 seconds to throw a pitch when the bases are empty. You'll have 20 seconds if there's a runner on base. Hitters need to be in the batter's box once there are 8 seconds on the pitch clock. So, yes, there's the pitch timer that will be in effect, or the pitch clock. So what if a guy has
to sneeze with 3 seconds left in the pitch count? I mean, like, what are they going to enforce it? Maybe his back spasms.
Well, this is where, again, I get into the minutia of it. Like, I don't know that they've really thought about, like, if a guy has to sneeze. I don't think that happens all that regularly. But if a pitcher has not started their motion to deliver before the expiration of the clock, he'll be charged with a ball. Okay. If a batter delays entering the box, so maybe he's got to sneeze, he will be charged with a strike. So that answers your question.
The bottom line, the game
is trying to be
sped up.
Yes.
They're trying to get it under 3 hours, even 2:45 or closer to that, or what it might be.
And another rule there, pickoffs. Pickoffs are what they're calling disengagements, and that consists of any time a pitcher makes a pickoff attempt, fakes a pickoff attempt, steps off the rubber for whatever reason, defense calls timeout. You are allowed 2 disengagements per plate appearance without penalty, but the rule will reset if a runner advances within that same plate. So basically, you can't throw over to first base 15 times in an inning. You know what I mean? So they're going to have that rule now as well. There's also bigger bases. I don't know if you guys knew that. They've increased the size of the bases from 15 to 18 inches. So that's an attempt to reduce injuries. And then finally, there is a rule that's in regards to position players going up to toe the mound when needed. Teams will be not as free to use whoever they so see fit if there is a situation where they need to bring in a pitcher. The rule before, you can use a position player to pitch when up or down by 6 or more runs, but the sides are discussing a tweak, I guess, currently in which the leading team would have to be up by as many as 10 or more, or the trailing team would have to be down by 8 or more in order for a position player to pitch. So I guess just trying to avoid, too many position players going up on the mound. I guess, worry about injuries as well and all that comes with that. That one's a little foggier to me because I don't know how much of a issue that really was, but those are your 5 new rules, 5 major rules changes. Position players pitching, bigger bases, pitch clock, pickoff limitations, and also the shift rules as well, and there's a few things off the radar.
I saw someone describe the new bases that look like pizza boxes. Speaking of which, when we come back, the 5 o'clock hour continues. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. I'm on Marcos.com right now. We have 5 locations in the Waco area. Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Woodway, and in Robinson. Right now, the unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for $6.99 each. Go online and order. Again, Marcos.com. Use the code word MED699. Extra large 2-topping pizzas, $13.99 a piece. Code word is HD1614. And the pepperoni, favorite pizza, the large pepperoni Magnifico, is $9.99 each using the code word online PepMag, or you can order it with your app. And, of course, if you've never used the app, you get a small discount the first time you do, or have them deliver the pizzas to you. Marco's Pizza with Bob Mock. They're looking for new people in administration, management, drivers, and more. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
During the President's Day sales event at Allen Samuels in Waco, get a 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab with 0% for 72 months, or Ram 1500 Crew Cab with 1.9% for 72 months on all trim levels, only while supplies last.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 365 Sports every weeknight, every weekday afternoon, 3 until 6. A lot of you, we appreciate a ton of you who have been on the chat room today. And also, there's a few that are discussing the incoming teams and who has the best chance of winning in football. And in the Big 12, if you look at the last couple of years, 2 years ago, Baylor picked midway or down in the Big 12 media poll, and they won it. And then last year, of course, the incredible run that TCU put on, who knows, in the Big 12, the one that's going to be the 14 teams and or whatever may happen once they go back to 12. So
UCF amongst the 4 new ones is the one with the highest positioning coming in. I know that much. I mean, based off who they have coming back, and I need to compare the schedules and whatnot, but Houston was better by the end of the year, but I don't know that they're going to be like great just transitioning right in. BYU had a really rocky year last year. Thought they were going to be really good and ended up pretty disappointing. Got to replace Jaron Hall and Puka Nacua and others. Don't know how quickly they'll do that. Cincinnati, a brand new coach after the Luke Fickell era. And, if it was Luke Fickell rolling in, I'd probably peg them as the one to be on the watch out for. But there's a few more questions there than there typically would be. With Malzahn and John Rice Plumlee, and I know there's more to it than just your head coach and your quarterback, but that's a good place to start. And BYU doesn't have that combination coming back. Cincinnati doesn't have that combination coming back, and neither does Houston. So give me UCF for starters to have the the best opportunity to make a splash in year number one.
All right, so there's that. Now, coming up in a minute, we'll have Hall of Fame writer and columnist John McLean. He was not at the Super Bowl. He might be at Astros training camp because that started, and Craig had the new baseball. That's why that came out, by the way that it did. From Steve Smoak, huge Cincinnati fan, has been watching this show since a lot of what happened, the smoke and the fire and all that back in the summer of 2021. He wrote this email involving the contracts, the Pac-12, and much more. And he's been very much he focused on a lot of the realignment well before even Cincinnati joined the Big 12 and anything afterwards. He goes, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but 25 out of 40 years in sales, I negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, as I'm sure many have as part of their career if they're involved in that business. The ongoing PAC media deal is a cluster. A contract is no doubt give and take from both parties. Maximize profits, minimize losses. In the end, it's both parties' ROI. Other factors such as quality, competition, delivery factor in. PAC is at a juncture, has no competition as other four conferences have deals. The market on the West Coast usually finishes last in TV viewers. Look at the last 2 years of the conference championship ratings, which their Friday night game hasn't exactly been great. If their only option is streaming, it will be a 4-year cycle, which will bring recruiting both players and coaches down. If reports are correct, there is definitely dissatisfaction among the members. They can talk all they want about academic achievement, all they want. Sorry to break the news to them, but that's about 5th down the list of potential media partners. When your commissioner makes outlandish public comments, as they seem to do, that only shows, in my opinion, a defensive position. This is from Steve. In my opinion, they may make it through the cycle somehow this time. They are definitely setting up for failure in the next cycle.
That's where I am. I think they'll be fine this cycle. I do. I think that Dennis Dodd just reiterated in an interview that he did based on something I just saw. I think it might have been with Billy Embody. That he's it's a win, not if, I think is the way that he apparently phrased the SMU and San Diego State additions to the Pac-12. And maybe that stems the tide for a little while. It doesn't have to be long, though. It's not like they're signing 10-year deals. So, if it lines up to where it coincides with the other agreements coming up, then that would make a lot of sense. But, yeah, I don't think that, like, in 2 years the Pac-12 is not going to exist, barring, some unexpected move by the Big 12 potentially.
All right.
But I do agree with him. I don't think they're in a very good spot. And I don't think the streaming stuff's what it's being spun as either. I think that's not good news at all, that's what the majority or a good portion of your games could be broadcast on. I mean, you can say and scream all you want, streaming's the future, but not like that. Not with that type of live sports programming. I don't think that it is right now or may ever be. I think that that's still where, regular TV and cable is going to be king, is still with live sporting events. And I think somebody brought it up earlier, but what league's got a deal coming up soon, right? The NBA. Yeah. That's going to be a mega, billions of dollars on that. And there's not a lot of money to still be spread around, unfortunately, for the Pac-12.
Well, and ESPN has talked about not, Bob Iger is back in charge of Disney, right? And so he's talked about not being as aggressive as they were in the past with some of their rights deals, which doesn't bode well for the Pac-12 if you're also talking about letting the NBA go. And NBC plans to get back in the mix, which I am certainly hoping for one reason alone. Bring the theme song back. Oh, yeah. The John Tesh. Yeah. Bring that back. But if the NBA's in the water, that's also going to if the NBA goes, and that's probably great news for the Pac-12, right, for ESPN, because now you've got some money from ESPN that maybe you can get otherwise.
Do you have the graphic, Jack? I know we got to get to John McLean on the Super Bowl running backs. Did I send that to you? I'm not sure if you got that one or not. I know. Yeah, here we are. Of course you do. This was from Marcus Mosier. He actually does a podcast on the Cowboys. But here are the last 14 Super Bowl winning teams. Now, this is not who was their leading rusher during the regular season, but during the Super Bowl game, including Pacheco, who runs like a bat out of hell. All right? His salary impact, $870,000. Last year, Cam Akers, $890,000. Leonard Fournette, one of the highest numbers to the right as far as salary at $2 million. You go down. LeGarrette Blount, who joined us last week, back-to-back with the Patriots and Eagle, under $1 million. There's 2.5. Percy Harvin was not their overall leading rusher. Marshawn Lynch was, but in the game, it was Seattle and Percy Harvin. Ray Rice, who's no longer in the league. But look at the numbers. That doesn't mean you don't want an elite running back. But even if it would have been Philadelphia, Paul, who would have been their leading paycheck running back? Because they have Gainwell.
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders. Would it have been huge?
No, I mean, I don't even think he was a first-round draft pick. I think he was a second-round draft pick. So it'd have been decent.
They have a three-headed monster. And so Gainwell, is that right?
Gainwell and Boston Scott.
Yeah, they have. And it makes you wonder, yes, it would be great to have a dog. But then you look at the last 14 Super Bowl winning teams and the salary hit, the base salary of the leading rushers in that specific game, who also in some cases were the best running back they had on the team. Does that mean anything?
I mean, I think that it means that you can find running backs for value, right? I mean, you don't have to go big, in that. So, look, the first-round draft pick that the Chiefs had at running back was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he was towards the end, maybe the last pick of the first round, and he didn't play in the game. He's been injured for quite a long time. And, in fact, their offense got better when Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon kind of took over at running back there. So, yeah, I think that you can, in the way that these offenses run, you can do better depending on who your quarterback is, too. Because if you look at all those other ones, like, for example, Dak Prescott needs Tony Pollard and he needs a healthy Ezekiel Elliott, or he needs Tony Pollard. If you don't have that in there, then that's not going to work. Kirk Cousins needs Dalvin Cook.
But why can't they have the three-headed monster instead of Zeke with a lot of money, even if he was playing well, and Pollard who's about to earn a big old check?
Yeah, they could. They very well could. They just have to draft better and put resources towards that. The reason they don't right now is because 7 years ago, they drafted Zeke at the 4th pick and then gave him a second contract.
And he helped them win.
Yeah.
He did help them win. He did absolutely help
Not a Super
them win.
Bowl.
Yep, but not a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Paxton, I hope the Eagles don't draft Bijan. I've seen his name anywhere from the mid-10, top 10, all the way to the very bottom of the first round.
Okay, so Miles Sanders, one of those guys who's got a ring, right? He is a free agent. It'll be interesting to see what Howie Roseman does. I think Miles Sanders is going to be playing for somebody else next year because I don't think that they're –
I just think the difference between great and pretty good is there's not a whole lot of just great running backs. Maybe Bijan's that guy, but like a game changer that you can't replace easily. I mean, Zeke goes down. Okay, Tony Pollard's now the guy. Now everybody's clamoring for him to be the dadgum starter. Cut Zeke, right? So he wasn't irreplaceable. How many guys are irreplaceable?
Yeah.
Like Patrick Mahomes is irreplaceable.
Yep.
Quarterbacks are irreplaceable. Your number one wideout. Cowboys have an issue with that this year, not having the full array of wide receivers that maybe they wanted. You'd rather have a full, super talented wide receiver room than your stud, one-man show running back. And they, they've got Pollard and now Zeke. That'll be interesting to see how they deal with that. But, yeah, I mean, the days of – Bijan might not even go top. Bijan might be later first round.
Yep.
And how many running backs could you – he's getting Adrian Peterson comparisons. Adrian Peterson was drafted in, 2005. It's been 15-plus years. And I know there's been a bunch of dudes from Bama and other guys along the way as well. But, yeah, that just speaks to the fact that – nobody is of the belief anymore that you have to have just that dude at running back that's your bell cow and that you run into the ground, unless you're like the Titans and Derrick Henry or, something along those lines. Maybe I think of him as kind of that guy. But, even then you have to have other options. So, yeah, you have one good running back, that's fine. But in today's NFL, you should have 2 or 3 pretty good ones and then make sure you have some damn good receivers and most of all have a damn good quarterback that can throw it around.
Yeah, if you've got the dude, of course, you go down the list of the last 5 years, you've had obviously Mahomes, Stafford, Brady, Mahomes, Brady. The last 6 have had alphas, like the ultimate alpha. Stafford, of course, is a hell of a quarterback, not so much
I like you're
this
going
year.
Brady,
Brady.
Mahomes.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Brady. Mahomes.
Yeah. Of course, Nick Foles in 2017 prior to that list that I just mentioned. Then Brady. And then I think it might have been, was Peyton in 2015. So you had Manning at the end of his career. Oh, and then Brady. All right. When we come back, Hall of Fame columnist John McLean.
The future's bright, the time is now. Destiny is calling, can you hear the sound?
This isn't just another song. This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McLean. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at GallerySports.com and SportsRadio610.com.
Hall of Fame columnist John McLean, Hall of Fame voter. He also is the one that helped not just nudge, but get Chuck Howley into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as the new class was introduced. We kind of knew about the seniors, the veterans. Great job by John McLean. John, thank you very much. And your thoughts about What we saw Sunday, huge numbers. That's not a surprise. Chiefs and Eagles, great game. Just your overall thoughts and summary of Super Bowl 57.
David, first I'd like to say something about Chuck Alley, who I presented to the seniors committee and the selection committee, and he made the Hall of Fame 50 years after he retired. I grew up watching him in Waco as a diehard Cowboy fan. And I wrote a column on gallerysports.com. There's no paywall. It's right there. You can go under my name and see it. And it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I took my boss at Gallery Sports, Mattress Mack, the country's most renowned gambler, and he grew up in Dallas as a diehard Cowboys fan of the 60s like I was. And Chuck, who has Alzheimer's really bad, but his family invited me to come. I asked if I could bring a friend. I said a guy named Jim McInville. They go, Mattress Mack's coming to our house, and asked me to come early so they could meet him. And we're there, and we're hanging out, and Mack's talking to the family. And then at a little after 10, the son, Scott, leads his dad over to the front door. Doorbell rings. All the family members are scattered around the foyer, which is really big because it's a big, nice house next door to Staubach. They open the door, coming in from the pouring rain, are Roger Staubach and Bob Lilly wearing their gold Hall of Fame jackets, followed by Mel Renfro and Cliff Harris in their jackets, and Leroy Jordan and Charlie Waters. The six of them came over, started shaking Chuck's hand, pounding him on the back, welcomed him to the Hall of Fame. Don't know if it registered. Then they moved over into the living room, put Chuck in a chair, had Lilly and Staubach on each side and others around him, and they all started talking about what it meant to have their remembrances of Chuck as a player on the field and as a great leader and friend off the field. NFL mics were there, the boom mics, and Mattress Mack and I were standing behind everybody. And Mack, who's done everything, looks over at me and says, man, I just got to talk to Leroy Jordan. He was my hero growing up. And I just talked to him for 15 minutes. And we sat there, doomsday defensive guys. And it was such a memorable experience. Anyway, I wrote a really long story with pictures that's on gallerysports.com. And I sent it to a bunch of my friends that I grew up with in Waco because I wanted them to see it. I wanted to see that how I said as a 15-year-old me who was a sophomore at Richfield High School and worshiped the Cowboys could never, ever in his wildest dreams envisioned being and be able to experience something like that with those heroes of our youth. And so I hope the listeners will check it out on gallerysports.com and read it. I'd appreciate it.
We will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to the Super Bowl. I thought the hero was not Patrick Mahomes. The hero was Andy Reid, his play design, his play calling, his schemes, the way the long halftime show helped them make adjustments. They were a different team in the second half. And when you have a guy that has one catch for 5 yards and another one has one catch for 4 yards, Paul Catalina could have caught both of them. So Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. And that wasn't Mahomes. That was the schemes that got them wide open on both sides. And Kansas City's offensive line was so good. They protected Mahomes. Andy's game plan was designed to protect him from the NFL's second greatest pass rush ever to the 84 and 85 Bears. And I thought it was brilliance on Andy Reid's behalf. The biggest disappointment was the Eagles' defense. They got out-rushed. The Eagles, who are averaging 200 yards a game rushing in the playoffs, got out-rushed by the Chiefs. They got outplayed. They were dominated. And Jonathan Gannon is the new Arizona coach. And I'm sure when he has his news conference, he's going to be asked about that performance. But I'm so happy for Andy Reid, one of the all-time great guys. And people are talking about Mahomes being one of the greatest ever. And yes, he is. But he's only halfway to Montana and Bradshaw, who had 4 Super Bowls. And once he gets there, we can start talking about Brady. But he is the greatest player in the NFL. And I think they ought to tear up that 10-year contract he signed in 2018 and give him a new deal that makes him the highest paid like he deserves to be.
John, how do you think the rest of the league will start reacting to the Chiefs? Because they are, 3 out of the last 4 years they've been there. They've won 2 of these now. That's kind of how everybody starts moving to try and attack. They're going to have to stop Patrick Mahomes eventually.
Chiefs think they're the Astros. They've been a 4 World Series, 1, 2. I've been to the American League Championship Series 6 years in a row. Now they're favored this year. And when you get on top, the key is you're not going to be able to keep all your players. You're going to have to make financial decisions. They did that with Tyreek Hill. They traded into Miami. Most of us thought, wow, how's Mahomes going to get by without his best receiver, wide receiver? Kelsey's his best receiver. And it doesn't seem to matter who they put in there. They do great. And that is because Brett Veach, the GM, while Andy Reid has final say on personnel, Veach does a great job, he and his staff, of finding players that fit what they do, fit their culture. Now, I say their culture. They got some bad guys on that team like Frank Clark, who beat up his girlfriend, got kicked out of Michigan State. But still, they have a winning culture. And I think it starts with Andy Reid. He's not going anywhere. He's 65. Coaches like Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, coach into their 70s, and Mahomes is 27. Has more Super Bowls at that age than anybody but Brady, who had one more. They're going to be favored every year. And it's like Eric Bieniemy. There's all these offers to be an offensive coordinator at other teams. Why would he want to go to other teams when he could stay there and have a chance to get rings and a humongous payday if he's going to be an offensive coordinator?
John, how do you digest this and evaluate it from the Eagles' perspective, and how do you think that they're going to take this? Jalen Hurts, I'm sure, will be better for it. That's just kind of how he's taken lumps throughout his career and always seems to bounce back in a great way. But how do you digest this from the Eagles' point of view?
Hurts played a great game, and they could have won. If not for that ticky-tacky call on James Bradbury, it would have been tied. I'd love to see what Hurts could have done on the last drive, but that's not why they lost. You become the second team in history and blow a double-digit halftime lead. You don't deserve to win. 3 of their defensive linemen are going to be unrestricted. The center and team leader, Jason Kelsey's unrestricted. Running back Miles Sanders, their leading rusher, is going to be unrestricted unless they can re-sign him. And they're going to have cap problems. They're lucky that Hurts now, does he get a big deal after 3 years going into his 4th year? Are they going to wait another year to do it? But they got serious financial problems. Everything had been built up for this season. They had a great season. They lose an exciting Super Bowl, no shame in that. But, boy, they got some problems with upcoming free agency and losing both your coordinators. They have a quarterback coach, Brian Johnson, will step up as offensive coordinator, and he's very highly thought of. People think he'll be a head coach. And I don't know what they're going to do on defense. There's so many coaches available because they got fired. Coordinators got fired by playoff teams that lost. And a guy like Kellen Moore, he bounces the Chargers to where he's coaching Justin Herbert. And but I think they got a good thing going there. General Manager Howie Roseman, Executive of the Year, Sirianni, did a tremendous job. So Eagles, I think, right up there with the Cowboys, will be favored to win a very, very tough NFC East that plays the AFC West.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Wow.
John McLean again, GallerySports.com, 610 Sports Radio, with us on 365 Sports.
John, what do you think is the future for Derek Carr? Where's the best fit for him?
First of all, he was so smart to turn down the trade with the Saints. People, how could he walk away from $40 million? Well, it's because he's going to get a whole lot more than $40 million. There are so many teams out there desperate for quarterbacks. All the teams in the NFC South, the one he signs with, maybe the Saints, maybe the Panthers, they're automatically going to be favored to win the worst division in football. The Jets, all the fans and the media are talking about Aaron Rodgers. Do you want Aaron Rodgers and his $58.3 million contract at 39 and he's become a fruitcake, and he hadn't been in the Super Bowl since 2010. And yes, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but do you want him for 1 or maybe 2 years and what it'll do to the salary cap, or do you want 30-year-old Derek Carr who threw for almost 5,000 yards in 2021, Washington? You know, if I'm Cowboy fans and Eagle fans, I don't want Derek Carr ended up in Washington with that defense and that running game. And so if you're not in a position to draft Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or maybe Will Levis, you know, you're going to be after Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo, and Carr's got a month head start. And that was such smart maneuvering by his agent.
You mentioned Bieniemy or anyone attached to the Chiefs and staying where they are. There was a report, not sure if it's true or not, that there are some other teams looking at him. Washington maybe as an offensive coordinator. Cardinals hired Gannon to be their new head coach. What did you think of Andy Reid, who stood in front of the owners at the meetings and mentioned Eric Bieniemy, but also how he mentioned him very quickly in the post-game interview about the adjustments the Chiefs made at halftime?
Well, he's trying to help Eric Bieniemy get another job. I think that ship has sailed. He's had so many interviews without getting one. It's pretty obvious he doesn't do well in interviews. You'd think he'd have professional help. And he stays right there. He's got a chance to go to the Super Bowl every year. If, say, he went with Jonathan Gannon to Arizona and he's coaching Kyler Murray, who's infamous for not working hard on the game plans, or does he go to work for Daniel Snyder? You know, there's a reason that grass is not always greener. If he thinks, boy, then I go and I'm calling plays, not Andy Reid, and I don't have Andy looking over my shoulder, and then what if it doesn't work? And what if in 2 or 3 years he's fired and he's on the street and Andy Reid's already got another coordinator? You know, at some point he's going to have to come to grips with his situation and say, I can stay here every year with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and have a chance to be a champion.
John, your red-hot Baylor Bears men's basketball team, they were 0-3. They're 9-4, tied right now atop the league with Texas.
Yeah, I saw that Jonathan Chachua is the way he pronounces it. I just wish the announcers could figure that out. Having him back, as you guys know, I don't know what percentage he is or if he's as explosive, but just having him on the floor is so great. And I love it. Keontae George doesn't hit double figures, but he rebounds, he passes the ball. You know, I think if they get into a game with a team that's got good big men, those guards are going to have to hit the threes, but they have hit their stride. It's very exciting. I watch all the games, and that Kansas game is going to be on ESPN Monday night. You know, I'm hoping they get a little revenge, but the Big 12 is just so tough, and people down here with U of H being ranked 2 or 3, whatever they are, they know they better do it this year, because when they get into the Big 12, it ain't going to be like the conference they're in right now. It's just so much fun to watch, and it's great to see those fighting Baylor Bears turn it around, start winning for Scott Drew, and I can't wait to watch them play.
John, we appreciate the insight on the background of Chuck Howley. You've kept us in touch with that, but the story, go to gallerysports.com and look for the story, the background and the insight of the moment. Chuck Howley, and of course a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and John McLean had a hell of a lot to do with that, like you've had others that you've been able to go to bat for who are now a part of enshrinement in Canton, Ohio. Thanks for your time. Have a great week, John.
Yeah, I just got one thing to say about that, guys. Sick 'em.
Thank you very much, John McLean. Oh, I didn't ask him about Lovie Smith's name popping up, about now being a part of the list in Philadelphia as far as the defensive coordinator, who was, of course, recently with the Texans. Paul Catalina's top 5 to close it out is next.
Cars priced right, both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
At
Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
By the way, 5:55 today.
54.
Wow, well, the clock is fast there. So 54. Top 5 reasons I don't think a Pac-12 collapse is imminent. I think there are people out there thinking because they made, the silly, like, hey, we're all together, we love each other, and we're going to have a great media deal in a minute. We'll tell you about it. Nothing's happened, but something will. Statement that they think that is the harbinger of bad news. I just think it's the harbinger of they're really bad at PR right now. And they've got a commissioner who kind of shoots off of the hip sometimes before he's kind of examined everything that's going on. And so that kind of collectively spreads throughout the conference. But number 5, there's not enough dissent yet in the Pac-12. Now, you've heard rumors, early about Arizona, currently about Arizona State and the way that they may feel. And sure, there's dissent. But I don't think there's dissent from Washington. I don't think there's dissent from Oregon. I don't think there's dissent from their in-state counterparts. There's certainly not from Stanford and Cal. There's not from Colorado right now, as far as we can tell. Utah is happy where they are. So as you start getting into that, there's not enough people that are pissed off at each other yet for this thing to spring out of control. When it's happened, like if you think about when it happened at the Big 12 the first time around, everybody was furious with Texas. Like there was so much dissent and anger. Right now, you've got a lot of schools that I wouldn't call it dissent. I think there's an unstable future because you don't know
trust
these
each
things.
other?
Not completely, but I don't think that it is to the point of, middle fingers and FUs at this point.
Do you think Washington and Oregon are good?
I mean, We'll get to that in a second, but I don't think that the options are there that are going to get them excited yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think keywords yet.
Yeah,
I think that's all it is. I don't think it's going to take much, and I don't know that we don't know that there's not some more going on behind the scenes either. That could very well be possible, where people are just keeping the information to themselves close to the vest because the timing's not right just yet to maybe be a little bit more vocal about how they're really feeling. But I could easily see some unleashing of true feelings depending on if this TV deal would ever get done and we could see some actual numbers and know, okay, y'all are satisfied with making this much, or, oh, wow, that's a really low number. There's no way Oregon and Washington are happy about making $5 million less per year than they could somewhere else, even in the Big 12 potentially. So, yeah, I mean, without numbers, everybody can say, like, no, it's all great. But as soon as those drop, then that'll really tell us, okay, who's on board and who's probably eyeing the next ship passing in the night.
Yeah. Number 4, they're trying to add schools right now. So they're trying to add schools, which to me means they at least got enough, because that doesn't happen without all the 10 schools on board. You can't say, okay, all right, 9 of you. Oh, Washington State doesn't like traveling to SMU. Well, tough. It's got to be unanimous. That's how it works. So they are trying to add schools, which means they're trying, at least at this point, to grow the conference and stay together. So today, and this is today, this doesn't mean this could change, but right now they're trying to add schools, which means they are trying to move forward as a group together. Because if they were not at that point, they wouldn't be trying to add schools, they'd be trying to keep schools. But right now, they at least feel confident enough to go out and try to add a couple schools before they move on to the next phase of whatever they're going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes, there's a confidence there, but there's also, that's all that they have to play with. I mean, like, if Oregon and Washington were threatening to leave right now, and I know we keep using them, but they're the ones that are really kind of like the binding, are they still like, we'll go get SMU and San Diego State? Or would that be the sign that everybody's like, screw this, we're all out of here, Like, I mean, yeah, they're trying to save face and make best with what they have at their disposal right now, but yeah, I mean, this is them trying to do what they can, basically, is how I view it. I don't view it as like it's locking them in for the long term or it's going to keep them at a certain level of value or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, this is like the Big 12 had to scramble and go get what they could get, and they got, fortunately for them, a few more options, and they had a little bit longer to kind of try to figure themselves out. But yeah, with the PAC, I mean, it's really the only choice they have. I mean, they've been told your TV deal needs some more oomph in it, and you need more teams for more games, for more money, more inventory, and so they're kind of almost having to because of TV deal rather than survival.
When you said that the Big 12 had a little bit more time, are you talking about the Big 12 in the summer, fall of 2021 compared to the Pac-12 now?
Yeah, the TV deal's expiring. The Big 12 had 3 years.
Big 12's TV deal's already.
I'm talking about the change in the conference. It's a difference with Big 12 did not go through a TV deal until now. I'm talking about the change in the conference being disrupted with USC, UCLA compared to Texas, Oklahoma.
I mean, I'm not comparing them exactly. I'm just saying that the Big 12 had some time to kind of like gather itself and get it together. Not a lot of time to get itself together, but they had enough time to go and grab BYU and Houston and Cincinnati and UCF.
No, I get that. That didn't happen. That happened pretty quickly, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying they had like 2 years to get that all done, but they had a moment to compose themselves. Okay, boom, let's pivot here, and they were able to do it. Yeah. And with the Pac-12, like, I think there's only so many options. Like, add SMU and San Diego State, or what?
Yeah,
or what?
And because the Big 12 had already done what they did, yeah,
that's all you have.
Yeah, you can't, like, you couldn't go now. If the Pac-12 wanted to really expand, they should have, needled the Big 12, at that time.
Who would they have added that the Big 12 added?
No, they would have added Tech or Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Or
I want to make sure we have that clear. Okay.
No, yeah. So then that's when you did it, but they didn't want those schools. Number 3, they need a few cycles of the 12-team playoff. I think that can maybe change a lot of perspectives on things. If you go through the 12-team playoff and you get a couple teams in, you maybe have a team that goes up and makes it to the semifinals or maybe even the finals. Because, look, everything is much more cyclical now with the transfer portal and NIL. And so because of those things, you can shorten your rebuild window or your contention window of, we've got a team that's 10-3.
What's your definition of few?
Like 3 or 4. I mean, like a TV deal, like a TV deal here.
I mean, it's at least 2 more years before you even get to that.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of the thinking should be, let's see how we do, and then let's see where everybody is after that thing and how we are, because the game's about to change 1 year from now in a huge way. Yep. So if you wanted to make a sweeping change right now, it may not be the best time to do it if you're the Pac-12 and stay together and try to get in there and try to get some teams up into the playoff. Otherwise, you might be looking down the barrel of something bad,
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, though, if it's just Oregon or Washington every single year, and I know Utah could jump in there. I mean, Utah would have been a playoff team under the new system. So, I mean, you got to add them in there and maybe some others jump up. But, I mean, you're only going to be playing with so much time, and, there's still going to be rankings. Like, just because you get an automatic, potentially berth by winning the Pac-12 doesn't mean that you're going to be slotted very high necessarily. There's definitely some questions that we don't know the future all the way just yet. I mean, to your point, because of this playoff and how that's exactly going to work.
I don't know if they have enough time to go through new
right. Yeah, that's the question.
Cycles, but okay.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's one TV deal, then they do. So if you're talking about if they do get a TV deal done, then they can do that.
They will.
Yeah. Number 2, they have not seen what life is like without SoCal, and I know it's not going to be great for them initially. And look, if USC and UCLA have 2 of the better coaches, then they're still going to own LA. Doesn't matter what conference they're in. If they're good and they have good coaches, they're going to own LA. But that's really never been an issue for a lot of the teams when those have been good. What you need to do in the Pac-12 is, can you be the 3rd or 4th best team in LA? If you're the 3rd or 4th best team in LA, and the number 1 and 2 teams in LA are in the Big Ten, that's fine. You're not really ever going to play them. But if you're the 3rd and 4th best teams in LA, you can win that league pretty regularly. So can that be Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State? Can that be Dion? Can that be Oregon? Can that be Washington that can go in there and really solidify that area for their school? Then maybe there are some benefits to them not being there, because you may have guys that just want to play on the West Coast. I don't know. Kids are weird. They want different things. So if you can be the 3rd or 4th, even 5th best team in LA, you can maybe start winning that league and getting in that playoff regularly. So they don't even know what it's like without it. They have not gone through the whole, let's see how we do. So while it's
what if it's not one of the Pac-12 teams? What if it's Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, or whoever?
Yeah, that's also a problem. And I'm not saying it could be a bed of roses. It could be a gigantic pile of turds.
Thorns.
But you could theoretically start owning that area, at least for your conference, and then winning it. And I think that's something you at least need to try out, and see what happens.
Okay.
And number 1, the biggest reason that the Pac-12 demise is imminent is that the Big Ten doesn't want anybody else right now. Right now, today. They don't want anybody else. The presidents of that league seem content to stay where they are at 16, taking the 2 new teams that they've added and building out from there. Now, a cycle and a playoff and a TV deal from now? Maybe not. But since the Big Ten doesn't want anybody else right now, then that leaves teams that may want to jump, or if they say, forget it, this thing is over, we can't make it. Well, not everybody can go in the Big 12. Not everybody can go to the ACC. You can't just all go to one spot. So you're talking about fragments of people going off someplace, and
Kevin Warren was the man behind the curtain that haunted them with the decision, and then again him leaving for the Bears. Oh man, who knows? Maybe he's the one that crippled the Pac-12 and then turned around, and maybe there's a life raft because he's no longer there.
All right, I have to zap Gregory Krug. Big Ten waiting on Notre Dame in the ACC. Half of that is true, and they might be waiting on Notre Dame. I will say this: Notre Dame will not join a conference until the rules are changed that make them. They will not do it. Their athletic director has as much power, and he's in charge of one school, as all the other Power 5 conference commissioners. They're not changing until the rules change to make them, and there is not enough juice in the refrigerator to make them do it right now. That will not happen. So the thought of Notre Dame being in the Big Ten is not realistic in the multiverse. It's just not until they change that rule, which I don't know if they ever will or would be compelled to, because Notre Dame is that powerful.
All right. Craig, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of wishing and praying going on. I think that all it takes is just some cold feet by a couple of schools to go ahead and bring the whole house down, no matter how, you want to say Dallas is this burgeoning market that you're suddenly going to have ownership in Texas, or San Diego State's thriving. I saw a San Diego State fan or as a Pac-12 fan, and I'm not trying to single out their fan base or whatever. Everybody's got their people. But a person simultaneously say in one tweet, well, yeah, we don't go to games because San Diego, you ever been, man? Got all this weather and blah, blah, blah. And then turning around in the next minute saying how great of addition they would be to the Pac-12. It's like, wait a second, you kind of got to go in both ways there. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the clock's ticking on them and them alone. I mean, at this point, the Big 12's got their TV deal. The Big 12's got their new additions. The Big 12's got their schedule for next year. Not that it's, a competition between those two per se, but those were the two big question marks. One of those questions has been answered, and now we await for, the Pac-12 to figure out what they're going to do next, and I think that will answer a majority of these questions once we figure out exactly what that's going to look like. And you know what? If they're on like 65% Amazon streaming, then maybe you start to see some cages rattle a little bit because, the schools at the top are not too, excited about that proposition. But right now, it's just us wondering what the heck's going to finally be announced and when that's going to happen.
From the chat room, Sir blah, 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 not enough dissent, question mark. That's debatable. We don't know that. Yeah, we don't know exactly. No one has really come out and said much. There might be some simmering behind the scenes. Also, the note from Hayden, just because they say they're looking for other schools, that doesn't mean that could just be the head office and the PR department saying that. That doesn't mean everybody is on board with that. You're right. Because they're trying to. So there you go. Great day today. Hope you've enjoyed everything today. We'll have the president of Texas Tech on tomorrow. Skuvanek, he'll join us tomorrow on some more background in the Texas OU, the exit, the agreement, his role, and also the Big 12 and Texas Tech athletics and the university moving forward. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Jack McKenzie. By the way, in the premium section, Jack, when he's at games, not just covers the games, the presser, etc. He also puts up massive amount of pictures that he's doing throughout the day and evening or afternoon. Great job with that. That was awesome to see before last night's game with West Virginia. For our sponsors, every one of them, we appreciate you. And, of course, our audience, 365 Sports. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.